Okay. Oh no. 30.
All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you need to find a seat. The sign-up list for public comment is over here, right? Is that where we put it? Okay, so if you're new to our meetings, you can sign up for public comment. You'll have 3 minutes, but we do need you to sign up on the list over here. And we're going to go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we do take a moment of silence, and then we'll start our meeting. So if you can stand with us. Okay, for this evening, to start off, we do have our budget hearings that we've been having this time of year. So this evening is our second budget hearing. So if anybody has any comments on the budget, they could come to the front now and make a comment.
Anna Elliott, Grand Junction. I just wanted to make certain that our finance, Mel, is aware that on June 15th, Public Service has increased rates, and they're very specific about rates going on from 1 p.m. until 7 p.m. in the evening, except for weekends and holidays. But I'm sure that Excel is a part of the budget that is a huge chunk, and it should be aware that when electricity and gas is running between those hours, it's going to impact the budget.
All right, thank you. Any other public comments on the budget? Okay. Seeing none, we will move into our business meeting. We can go ahead and call the meeting to order and do the roll call.
Okay, Mrs. Heights,
Here.
Mr. Jones,
Here.
Ms. Lima,
Here.
Mr. Levinson,
Here.
Dr. Schultes.
Here. All right, do I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Mrs. Heights,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Mr. Levinson,
Yes.
Dr. Schultes.
Yes.
All righty. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 2nd, May 5th, May 8th, and May 23rd, and May 25th, 2023 meetings?
So moved?
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Heights,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Lima,
Yes.
Mr. Levinson,
Yes.
Dr. Schultes.
Yes.
Are we adding the April 18th meeting as well? The special meeting that's on here?
That should have already been.
I believe we approved the April 18th meeting last.
Okay, sorry, it was just on mine. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. If. Okay. All right, we have board reports. So we have good things. So this is where the board, we're emulating what they're doing in the classrooms, which is sharing good things that the teachers do with their students. So the board has taken that on as well to share good things that we're seeing in the district or as we visit schools or other things that the board has been involved in. So, board, any good things that you want to share?
I would like to read a Pride Month. It's not a proclamation because it's not in that section, but just a statement about Pride Month. Okay. Mesa County Valley School District 51 is a welcoming and inclusive community, acknowledging and celebrating our diverse background of students. June has been globally recognized as Pride Month, a time to celebrate and support LGBTQIA+ individuals and honor their impact on our nation's history. School District 51 values the principles of fairness, respect, and equity, seeking to ensure that all students from diverse backgrounds have an equal access and opportunity at D51. We recognize the importance of promoting awareness, education, and understanding of LGBTQIA+ issues, encouraging open dialogue and fostering a climate of acceptance and inclusion. Pride Month offers an opportunity for D51 and school districts around the nation to come together in celebration and unity, reaffirming our commitment to create an environment that ensures all students are accepted, can live authentically, and feel a sense of belonging. Therefore, Mesa County Valley School District Board of Education does hereby recognize June 2023 as Pride Month and encourages our community to embrace diversity and work together to foster an inclusive and accepting environment for all students.
All right, thank you, Dr. Schultes. All right, then we have, any other good things?
So I just want to mention we've got a new person at our table over here. So Ms. Navarrete, we mentioned at the last meeting, we're losing Bridget. She's retiring, and so we're going to miss Bridget, but we've hired an amazing replacement for Bridget, and that's Ms. Navarrete. So she's joining us here to be at the meeting tonight. So can we give Ms. Navarrete a round of applause? She comes to us from the state of Colorado, but with background supporting school boards and superintendents in other districts, and so we're excited to have her join our team. And we also have a new addition to our communications department. I mentioned last time that we went from whopping 2 people down to 1, and Callie was supporting the whole district, and so now we have Sierra joining us as well, so we can thank Sierra for joining our communications team.
All right, any other good things?
If you haven't gone by the new Grand Junction High School, it's changed a lot in the last couple of weeks. So everything is still on schedule, I think going well there. Do stop by and take a look because it's beautiful and it's just going to keep getting better. So it's very exciting to see that go up.
Great. All right, thank you. Do we have any committee or activity updates? I think it's been a little quiet since school's been out, but.
You going?
You gotta go.
No, I was just going to mention really a thank you to Black Citizens and Friends for putting on the Juneteenth block party last Saturday. That was a lot of fun. They had games and events for the kids, and they actually tried to tie it in with Black history. So they had a section for super soakers, and that was because an African-American individual invented the super soaker, and then potato chips, and so it was just a cool event. We got to read part of a joint proclamation with City of Fruita, City of Palisade, City of Grand Junction, and Mesa County, recognizing Juneteenth, and so that was exciting as well. We also had one of our staff members, Patty, got a educator award, which was awesome, and they recognized some different businesses in the community. So really just a thank you to all the folks who helped put that event on to celebrate Juneteenth in our community. So.
Any committee or activity updates? No? Okay. All right, we have our D51 happenings and celebrations.
I'm just going to be up here for moral support tonight. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Sierra Colson, the new Marketing and Communications Specialist. So I'm going to go over the D51 happenings and celebrations. So first is our Lunch Lizard program. This started from WCCF. They provided a grant to District 51 back in 2015 to provide summer meal programs to our students. And then that's continued into today, and we give 25,000 meals over the summer, and it's a 9-week program. And then last week we had our book giveaway. Our warehouse team put this event on. A lot of the books come from our schools, all of the schools, from outdated curriculum to donated books from teachers. And Thursday was a day for School District 51 teachers to come in, kind of pick through, and then we opened it up to the community on Friday and Saturday, and they were able to... Oh, okay.
Sorry, we have some technical difficulties.
Okay. Thank you. So, and then discussing with some of the attendees, a lot of the books went to smaller private schools in the community, and they were gratefully received. And then next slide. Summer school started. Summer school lit camp has begun, and these kids are most definitely happy campers. Our schools have added weekly spirit days to make coming to school during the summer more engaging and fun. This week was Hat Day. A lot of the sites have taken lit camp and turned it into an actual summer camp. At Dos Rios and Pear Park, each classroom has named their camp. You can go to the next slide. So you can see their classrooms. They have the tents, they have campfires, fake ones, obviously, but you can see that all of them have camp counselors instead of teachers, so just kind of adds a little bit more fun and exciting summer feel to school. And then here they're reading their books in the dark, kind of low-lit classrooms, and just kind of having that fun camping experience. And then you can go to the next slide. This is our District 51 Security Injured Officer course. Marv DiPilato, a D51 security officer, provides training to our D51 security team during the summer months. They conduct 2 training sessions each month, one of which focuses on shooting skills. During this particular training, they conducted a thorough review of an injured officer course. Thank you, D51 security team, for going above and beyond to keep our schools and students safe. This is a fun little thing that Taupe Elementary is doing. They have given the Taupe bag a whole new meaning, the Taupe bag. We have unofficially dubbed these shared pictures as Where in the World is Taupe, or Where is Taupe? We love seeing our teachers go on exciting adventures and fill their summer breaks with new experiences. Grand Mesa Middle School has also been traveling. So our 8th graders traveled with EF Explore America to Washington, D.C. and New York City. They visited the Arlington National Cemetery, Mount Vernon, the home of George Washington, a ghost tour in Alexandria, the White House, the U.S. Capitol, the Supreme Court, the Library of Congress, the National Monument, the Vietnam Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, MLK Memorial, the Edge, Hudson Yards, Ellis Island, Statue of Liberty, Financial District, Times Square. They even went to a Broadway show, Central Park, Grand Central Station, and Rockefeller Center. And then we have our Golden Apple winner, Bridget Story. She's been with the district for 30 years, so this is well-deserved. Yes. Thank you for all that you've done and continue to do. We would hardly be the same district without you. So And then District 51 Foundation has been hard at work for our students and staff. Recently, they accepted a large donation from one of our community partners. Life by Music donated new guitars to the students at Shellady Elementary School. They also donated an additional $5,000 for 30 students in School District 51 to attend a summer music camp at CMU. Thank you, Life by Music, for your generous donation and for enriching our students' lives with the love of music. In addition, District 51 Foundation has introduced the addition of a third funding priority, staff and student wellness. The foundation donated $35,000 to go toward engaging schools training that will impact over 10,000 D51 secondary students. In other districts where this has been implemented, students have improved academic achievement, healthier social and emotional development, increased post-secondary access and success, and more participation in communities. Thank you, D51 Foundation. Those are all the D51 happenings that I have, and thank you.
Thank you. Good job. All right, we'll move into our superintendent's report. Dr. Hill?
All right, so we have 2 items tonight. The first one, I'm going to have Clint come up and Micah, there we go. They're just going to do a quick update with the board on where we are with the long-range facility master plan RFP that we've been going through. So just a reminder, we've been talking about updating our long-range facility master plan for a little while, and so we are actually going through that process now to hire the right firm to be able to do that work for us, to do a comprehensive review of our facilities and also create a plan for us for the future on how we update facilities. So with that, I'll stop talking because I'm probably saying what Clint's going to say, and I'll let him share where we are in the
Thanks
process.
for doing the update, sir. I appreciate that. There we go. All right. Good evening, board. Thank you for having us tonight. Just a quick update on where we're at in the master planning process. We just want to briefly go over the process and some of the things that we're doing right now. So we have started the process of looking for a firm to represent us in the master planning process. That started back in May. We put out an RFPQ, and we got some candidates back, some proposals back. I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these. And Blythe Group is the first one. You probably know who they are, Blythe Group. We've worked with them quite a bit, them and DLR Group. They are capable of doing this project, local, which is good. Horde, Copeland, and Mocht is another firm out of Denver. Again, large enough to handle this project. RTA Architects out of Colorado Springs, also capable of taking on this project. I will add that Blythe is a local firm, but Horde, Copeland, Mocht, and RTA are also using and utilizing local engineers and estimators. Is that right? Estimators? Okay. So scope of work, we'll be doing a facilities assessment. So a facilities condition index, we've talked about that in the past. We want to make sure that we cover all of our buildings from mechanical, electrical, plumbing, right, all of that, to the structure, making sure we're getting all the information we need on all of our buildings. I'd also add here as well that in the 2018-2019 master plan, we did go through the buildings, but only 11 of them did we go into in detail. So we'll be able to utilize some of that information moving into this master plan, but our goal is, moving forward, is to hit all of our buildings and to get all the information that we need in our buildings moving forward. Also, an education adequacy index will be performed as well, and that really is how well our buildings are equipped to deliver the current instructional curriculum. So those are things like our lighting, furniture. Do we have the right furniture in the classrooms? I don't know if we do rows of desks anymore, but That's changed a little bit. Maybe they're collaboration tables today. Things look a little bit different. We'll be conducting faculty and staff interviews, making sure that we get input from all of our staff and faculty. And then community meetings and engagement, we want to make sure that our community is being engaged through this entire process. And then our goals, again, as I mentioned, to assess our facility adequacy and prioritize our needs, which buildings need to be replaced. In our 2018-2019 master plan, we addressed some of those and we looked at some of those. Grand Junction High School is one that we decided to replace, and the community said yes to that, and we're grateful for that, and we've moved forward with that, so that's a win. What does that mean moving forward for the rest of the buildings? We'll be taking a look at that as well. And then, of course, we're creating a clear path to get there, identifying strategies and funding mechanisms to pay for whatever it is that we find. And then just an overview on the timeline. This is a little bit fluid. I've got some dates here, but we're not sure exactly what this looks like. Our intent is to start at the end of this month or early July, and then in summer into the fall, gather information. In the fall time, assess all of that information. At the end of this year and early 2024 to develop the master plan. And then, of course, back to present to you all in March or April, that master plan. So with that, very short presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a couple. Thanks so much, Clint. So looking at the Education Adequacy Index, I have a kind of two questions there. So is that purely from a facilities standpoint? And then paired with that, if there's existing programmatic inequities, I guess that those would translate into the physical environment. How are you thinking about the differences between programmatic and facilities and kind of
That's a
mirroring?
great question, and they are separate. I would, and you can add some more to this if you have anything. Sure. But I would say that the Facilities Condition Index addresses our building needs from a facilities perspective, and the Education Adequacy Index will address those programmatic needs. We will definitely be looking at whether or not our buildings are adequately set up for where we're at today with whatever and how we're teaching. That's, a little bit more on the educational side that I'm not sure I can speak to specifically, but.
I just think as we approach it, I think we'll have to be really sensitive to, what comes first. And if we aren't doing certain programming because we don't have the facilities for it, how will we account for that as opposed to, is this classroom big enough or whatever? I just feel like there's a lot of nuance in there.
Yeah, it's a good point. I only have to go off of what we did in my previous district, and they did a similar process where you come out with essentially scores for facilities. So it's easy to look at it and say, okay, this building from a condition standpoint ranks way lower than these other buildings. So it helps us to prioritize. But yeah, to your point, I think that's part of the maybe the engagement piece that we're having with faculty, staff, and community around educational suitability is, just even the basic needs of kids today, like are we even able to do that within the buildings that we currently have? So some of the work that came out of that in Austin was, maybe it wasn't a tear down of a building, but it was renovations to a building to be able to have flexible seating or flexible spaces within the building. So I'm hoping that'll actually come out of the time we're going to put into the engagement with school staff and community as well. And again, the idea behind all this is that we have a clear plan that can always be adjusted, but we have somewhat of a clear plan that we can be transparent with the community to say, if we're going to value public education, but also the facilities that our kids are in, then these are the things that we're going to have to come back to the community and try to address, or are we going to let them continue to deteriorate? And that we heard that loud and clear through multiple town halls and things we've been a part of, is like, don't just come back to us every year or two and randomly ask us for things, like actually come with a plan. So that's what this is trying to capture. And at the same time, not just saying this building's the worst condition, so we're going to go with that first, but also, yeah, to your point, is there a programmatic need for renovations in a building that we could address that doesn't require us to spend, tens of millions of dollars to tear the building down completely, but we could actually address it that way. So hopefully, I don't know if that helps answer the question, but I think that'll come out through the engagement process.
Yeah, and specifically equity, how are we, are the SPED, do we have to shift SPED students away from certain schools because we can't accommodate them? And how are we going to be thinking about that on a district level and a building level?
I think they're good questions for us to ask, Definitely something for us to consider
Yeah.
as we move forward.
And then I definitely see this aligning, potentially aligning with the declining enrollment committee, because this is information we
Absolutely.
have to have as we move forward there too. So I wonder how we're going to think about the timing and the interaction between those two.
Yeah, and we've actually had that discussion this week with the core team around how do we update the committee on this work that's happening, and then have that conversation within the committee. So that's a good point.
How is that going to go?
We will see. With the committee, I don't want to.
Well, no, yeah, but just what is the plan?
The plan would be to let them know that we're actually going through this process. We haven't actually had a chance to do that with them. I think there's two paths. If we end up moving down the path of saying consolidations is an option and it's something that we're looking at doing for next school year, then do we need to prioritize assessments on those buildings ASAP, and they take priority over others? But it also would be a question for whoever we go with, because we haven't selected a firm yet, so we would need to have that conversation with the firm around, is that even doable? And if not, is there a way to get adequate data for the committee? And if not, then that's a thing we got to consider, I think, with the committee. Yeah.
I'm worried that the timing is not perfect. Obviously, it would have been better to have some of this information earlier on for us to utilize that data for decision-making with where we're at with declining enrollment.
Yeah, and definitely keeps the fire lit that we need to get it.
Understood.
Yeah, I think and I know you're aware of this, but Director Jones and I were asked to go out to Central High School earlier this year because the speech and debate team wanted to host, I think, a regional event out there. I don't quite remember. And obviously, lots of challenges there with handicap accessibility. So, and that's just even for our students who go there as well, besides hosting an event. So I think, we don't want our students having to go outside of a building all the way around to get to where they need to. So I know you guys are looking at that, and we need to prioritize looking at making sure that those environments are safe for our students and they're accessible. Some of those are going to be difficult because Central's older and we've got bigger issues that we have to look at as there as well. So, but I know that there's probably things in every building that people are thinking of, and so I appreciate you guys looking at how you prioritize that and sift through all that information.
Yeah. In the 2019 bond, the other high schools besides Grand Junction were all marked for some kind of improvements, and I think ADA was probably one of those that didn't, some of those we didn't get to. Those will definitely be on the radar moving forward because they're critical for our students.
The other thing that this helps us with is when we go out for best grants, this information is going to be helpful when we apply for those to have a better chance at getting them. I think that's always a misconception that we try to clarify with folks, is that the marijuana money from the state, we don't just go and ask for, Grand Junction's a $145 million project. We couldn't go ask for $145 million from the state, and they gave it to us. So everyone in the state's competing for this really small amount of dollars, and you've got to make a really strong case for why you need it. And so, with Grand Junction, it was 145. We got a $10 million best grant, thanks to a lot of work from folks that are up here like Micah, and then we had the additional 19 point whatever million that was left over from previous bond projects coming in under budget to bring that down to a closer to $150 million ask for the community, which is great. It'd be great to be able to do that in the future too, if we're going to come back for bonds for either scrape and replace or renovations, to be able to say, hey, community, we need this help, but we also were able to go out and get for Central. We were able to get a BEST grant to cover part of it, and having a really thorough and clear master plan is going to help us with the application process on that.
Could you remind the community what BEST means? Just building
Oh, God, building something.
excellent
Yeah, it's,
schools.
yes.
I know what it is. I was
Oh,
just
good.
letting
Go
people
ahead.
know.
Yeah, building excellent schools today.
Yeah. Building excellent schools today, yes. And that money is only designated for school structures, correct? Like for building or for security systems or things like that?
Correct.
Yeah, so, okay.
So I will add, there will be a number of committees formed through this process, one being a steering committee really kind of guiding the whole master planning process. And it'd be great to have a board member on that. And so I guess amongst yourselves, start to kind of figure out who wants to be the volunteer for that, so.
Just looking around.
I would happily volunteer for that.
And I'd say,
about it.
and thanks to Will too for serving on, we do have a board member serving on the selection committee for the firms too. So thanks to Will for dedicating that time.
What is our time frame for you guys to, I know you want to start soon, and then how long do you anticipate the whole process taking?
So we should be done in March, April of '24. We should have something back to you by that time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right? Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all. And so our second item tonight is our topic around school-based health center update. And so I've got a couple folks that are going to come up and help present with me. We've got a presentation for the board tonight. So I'm going to ask Katie McHugh, who's our head of nursing services, and then Rosa Gardner and Stephen Martinez, who support the Warrior Wellness Center at Central High School. So we'll get the slides pulled up. So we just wanted to take a little bit of time because I know this is on the agenda for discussion tonight for the board. One, to accomplish a couple of different things. One, to give some historical background on how we got here, because we obviously, there's a lot more focus and attention on this topic now, so it's a good opportunity to educate the community on that. Also to help folks clarify a little bit about what services actually are provided at the Warrior Wellness Center and what goes into a school-based health center, and then have an opportunity for board members to ask any questions that they might have of the individuals who are doing the work every day. So with that, I think y'all are going to have to control with the down arrow for me because I can't control it from over here. So the history of need, and if you've been paying attention to this at our previous board meetings, you've probably seen a lot of this, but in December of 2017, there was an advisory committee that was developed to determine the feasibility of opening a school-based healthcare center in the district. And this is just a list of organizations and groups that had representatives on that advisory committee back in 2017. And if you'll go to the next slide. So a needs assessment was conducted of student health needs and community resources. In March of 2018, that advisory council was given approval for further study on the concept, and the board approved that study. 2018, they did surveys and interviews that were conducted assessing the level of need and desire for having a school-based health center in the district. And then in January of 2019, the board was presented with benefits and background information on a school-based health center. The results of that assessment, and I'll go through a couple of the slides that we pulled out from it, the results of that assessment showed that there definitely was a need for services from a school-based health center, and the committee recommended moving forward on a cost, impact, and next steps. And the recommendation was to include both Central and Grand Junction. And actually, my understanding is Grand Junction High School showed the highest need at that time. I think I mentioned it later in the presentation, but because there was always a talk around replacement of the school, Central bubbled up to the top priority, and that's why Central was the first focus. So the next couple slides are from that presentation back in 2019, so we'll go through those. This is just kind of an overview of what school-based health centers provide. So it's a healthcare facility located inside a school or on school grounds, staffed by a multidisciplinary team of medical and behavioral health providers, and sometimes dental professionals, health educators, and or health insurance enrollment specialists. And then just a fact over here on the side, this is more recent from the Youth Healthcare Alliance website. There's currently 70 school-based health centers in Colorado serving 35,000 students, or approximately 35,000 students. On the next slide, so who does a school-based health center serve? It's usually serving primarily students who have barriers or challenges to accessing care, or that care is limited. And then the services are designed to identify problems early, provide continuity of care, and then improve academic participation are goals for school-based health centers. And the next slide, I apologize because this is a PDF that I pulled from an old board meeting, so it cut off part of the right side, and I can't fix a PDF like that. So, but this is really just a slide to try to show the difference, because we've had this question before, like, why don't nurses just do what they do in a school-based health center? And there are services that our nurses can provide that, or that school-based health center professionals can provide that our nurses can't. And so it's just an overview of some of the benefits of having that within the school setting versus having to go outside of the school setting. And we were trying to decipher, I'm looking at Katie, what the last bullet on the right probably said, responsible for health-related elements of educational record. I think it probably says immunization record checks. I'm looking at her because I don't know.
Is this on?
Yes.
I'm guessing immunization records and follow-up, individual health plans. And the last one, maybe emergency care
Or contact.
would be my guess, or emergency.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the next slide talks about basically the outcomes you're looking for when you have a school-based health center. So increased immunization rates, decreased use of emergency rooms, improved screening and identification of students at risk for depression and or anxiety, improved screening and early intervention, decreased teen pregnancy, improved identification and screening of overweight and obese students, and then improved educational outcomes under these three bullet points for better school performance, grade promotion, and then high school completion. And so the needs assessment that they did in 2017, 2018, these were the objectives at that time, was to understand the needs of students in Mesa County, specifically within our school district, to assess the potential utilization of a school-based health center, and then to understand the existing resources that we have in the community, including healthcare facilities that serve low-income children and youth, and identify any barriers there might be to receiving those services. So the next slide just talks about who all participated in the analysis that they did at that time. So you can see the number of students, families, and staff that participated through surveys, through focus groups, different community partner organizations that were interviewed, and then existing data that they reviewed. And so I think on the right, it really just talks about that the analysis focused on students enrolled at those two schools and their feeder middle schools, and they assess these different factors. And then the next slide is just a chart showing the percentage of stakeholders who replied to the surveys. Okay. The next slide, these were at that time the top 5 student health concerns. And so you can see from students, from families who filled it out, and also from staff, and with mental health being the most critical student health concern. And you can see where those survey results came out in 2018. I know we've had discussions even at the board level around whether these still exist and whether or not they've actually potentially gotten worse, especially since with the pandemic. The next slide, more data from the surveys and focus groups. So the top 5 health complaints or chronic conditions that affected student attendance and academic achievement. So emotional issues, sore throat, colds, fever, earaches, and coughing, behavior issues, stomach aches, and then headaches. And then this slide was all about essentially what kind of health insurance coverage did our county offer, or did families have at that time in 2018. And so you can see, I'm not going to go through all these bullets, but the data on our county compared to the state at that time. So we'll leave that for a second so you can see it. Okay. And then again, these were the recommendations from that 2018 audit or survey. Community input indicated support to pursue the school-based health center in the district. Mental health and substance use were the clear priority areas. And then they recommended developing a communication plan to reach stakeholders. And then school-based health center operational policies and procedures address feedback from staff, students, and parents to address any potential concerns that may have risen from the interviews that they did. So the next slide, back to our presentation. So again, there's only funding for one school and a future bond plan for Grand Junction High School at that time. So the committee chose to proceed with putting a school-based health center at Central, with the understanding that the new Grand Junction High School would house a school-based health center as well. In January of 2019, there was a presentation to the board in support of that school-based health center at Central, and the board passed that resolution to support it. And this is the language on the next slide from the resolution. This was January of 2019. And I mean, the main part, it goes through all the rationale, but the main part, the last section, the board supporting the establishment of school-based health clinics in one or more schools. So that was the resolution adopted in 2019 that the district was working under since then. So going back to the history, so again, through 2019, the advisory council worked on site planning, budgeting, capital funding. Students were also involved in the design, naming, and how the clinic would be promoted. September, grant funds were awarded by Colorado Health Foundation, and D51 provided space and minimal in-house PM services. And then between November of 2019 and March of 2020, the renovations were done at Central for that new space because they took an existing space within the building and renovated it. And then to clarify here, so in March of 2020, the school-based health center opened at Central, but it was mainly for student walkthroughs. And of course, we all know what happened in spring of 2020, so it kind of delayed the grand opening of it. And then in August of 2020 was when it officially went live at Central. And then this is just some information this was from a presentation. I can't remember if this was the one from 2019 or the one that was given in 2021, but for questions around how is the Warrior Wellness Center funded at Central, you can see where the percentages of funding come from and the different entities that help support having that program there. Okay. So the next section, so for services provided, and I think this is just to help clarify, because we've gotten a lot of questions about what exactly happens at the Warrior Wellness Center at Central. Do they do X, Y, and Z? And so that's why we asked Rosa and Stephen to come and share a little bit about the work that they're doing. And then Katie also will share a little bit about the benefits that they're seeing for the staff at the school. So I'm actually going to turn it over to Rosa and Stephen to take the next slides.
Thank you. So my name's Rosa. I'm a PA. I'm the primary care provider at the Wellness Center, and this is Stephen. He's with me tonight. Stephen's a licensed clinical social worker and licensed addiction counselor, and he provides our behavioral health services at the Wellness Center. We do also have a dental hygienist that is with us periodically. Her name is May, and she's lovely. She's a registered dental hygienist. So we also kind of have our own, like you guys as a district have goals for what a school-based health center is for. We as healthcare providers also have objectives that we are kind of aiming towards. So the first one always, as in healthcare, is improving baseline health and health outcomes for the people that we interact with. So we think that increasing access and ease does improve that baseline health and health outcomes for the young people. We want to improve school attendance, participation, and outcomes. So we think that having us there makes it easier for kids to be in school, to return to school quickly, to be healthy at school. We want to improve young people's health literacy. As you guys all know, health literacy is a skill that you develop over time, figuring out how to make appointments, how to speak with a healthcare provider. Doesn't happen overnight. And so having practice in the school setting and familiar faces can really improve health literacy for young people. We want to improve young people's conflict resolution skills. So not as much what I do, but Stephen will talk about this. A lot of what he does is anger management, brief interventions for stress, doing practice conversations between, it's in the next bullet point, between students and teachers, students and parents, and students and their friends. So we want to help kids learn how to communicate in a non-escalated way in all of those scenarios, and that's a big part of what Stephen does as a behavioral health provider. From the medical perspective, what I do most of my day is things that you're going to see falling under parental consent. So what parental consent means is that we get signed consent from a parent in order to see a student for some of those services. That's not, the list is not all inclusive because we see all kinds of different things under parental consent. But well child checks and sports physicals are high up on the list of things that we see, as is acute illnesses. So during COVID, we were doing tons of COVID tests, but we do lots of strep, flu, those kinds of tests, looking at ear infections, that kind of thing. Minor injuries, splinting and stitches, immunizations, we have the age-appropriate recommended vaccines at the clinic, and then medication management for routine mental health disorders. And so again, all of those things fall under parental consent where the parent signs a form for us. Now, Colorado has a state law that specifically defines minor consent, and in the purposes of the medical realm, there is no minimum age for these things. This is sexually transmitted infection testing and treatment, substance use counseling and treatment, and reproductive health education and services. And so again, no minimum age for that. And what minor consent means is that the young person consents for their own treatment for that. That doesn't mean that parents aren't involved, but it means that the minor is in charge of where that information goes. So if they are talking to their parents about it, great, so are we. And just to clarify on the reproductive health and education, and services, education is like we talk to young people about how their bodies work. A lot of people don't know, so we spend a lot of time doing that. Reproductive health services falls more into the contraceptive realm, and we'll talk about that a little bit more.
And just for behavioral health interventions and ongoing therapy for conditions that include, I see a lot of anxiety and depression, stress. Like Rosa said, we do a lot of anger management and substance use. Usually we give a screening tool that identifies substance use that ends up becoming, I am our referral source as a licensed addictions counselor, but that's not limited to me. So if we feel like they need to see a higher level of care or a different person, we're always looking for referral sources. And so when it comes to stress, when we see stress, I'm usually managing a lot of communication between parents, adults. With COVID, it almost seems like kids lost the ability to talk to adults or just even have a voice. And so a lot of that is role-playing that, a lot of those hard, difficult conversations. And so all those mental health services, they fall under a minor consent under the CRSs. But it doesn't mean that we are sitting here saying, don't have a conversation with your parent. Don't talk to any adult. In fact, we are encouraging that those students that come in under minor consent, please talk to your parent. Talk to your guardian about what is being done here. The worst feeling in the world is to have a student that we're actually doing some really good therapy with, and then they come back and their parent finds out because they don't believe in mental health treatment, and they feel like they've done something wrong. So we really, really are encouraging students to make sure that they are talking to those guardians. We're not just saying, please don't say nothing. We are very upfront. I am very upfront in every session, first session, that is being talked about. So.
Yeah, and then the last point here is just that we are mandated reporters. So if a young person is at risk to themselves or other people, or if someone's hurting them, we do have to report that. So I think there's some concern that students are being seen for really serious mental health conditions, and that's not the case. We have to involve their parents if there's any risk to the young person. And just like Steven said, I spend a lot of my time talking to young people about how to talk to their parents about birth control, how to talk to their parents about scary things that happen to them or that they see online. We do so much of how to talk to your families about this stuff because there's a lot of scary stuff out there as young people, and we just want to help support them. For dental, all of these services fall under parental consent. So again, that's the signed consent form. We do dental screenings and dental education. Our hygienist actually has all the tools and supplies to do cleaning, so she can do a full cleaning at the school. She also has this really cool handheld x-ray that she can take x-rays with that gets sent to our pediatric dentist at the main clinic. And then if needed, if there's cavities or some other situation where the student needs an actual procedure, we can connect them to the pediatric dentist at our main clinic for those procedures. We've gotten some really awesome funding to help with dental hardship if the students don't have dental insurance. So that's been a really great support. And the dental services that we have are offered 1 day a week. So we're employed by Marillac Health, and Marillac did have a period of time this winter where we had very, very limited staffing for our dental hygienists. So we were on about a 6-week hiatus with dental services at the school, but if things came up as needed, we were able to get the student seen by the hygienist, and then we resumed our services after 6 weeks. So I know that came up as a concern in the last meeting, and that is something that just working as an organization in the community, you know, the limitations of staffing do impact our clinic occasionally here and there. We try to limit that, but it did happen. So there's obviously a lot of things that we don't do at the Warrior Wellness Center. I'm not a surgeon, you know, Stephen is not a psychiatrist. We don't do everything. But there, I think, are there's some misconceptions about things that might happen at the Warrior Wellness Center or could happen at the Warrior Wellness Center. And so I just want to be really clear, we do not do any hormone therapy or procedures related to transgender medical care. We do not provide abortions at the Warrior Wellness Center. And we don't provide any complex psychiatric or psychological care there. So if there are patients that are outside of our scope from a psychological or psychiatric standpoint, we have a referral source in the community that we get them to. I'm not a psychiatrist, neither is Stephen.
And I want to be clear too on the last slide. We were trying to be really mindful of not feeling like we're targeting any group of students, but we get a lot of emails, and we appreciate the questions, and these items come up a lot in the emails we got, so we wanted to make sure that we could clarify that with the community. So the next slide, y'all have seen this data the board has, but it's just an overview again of the year 1, 2, and 3 number of users, number of visits for the different types of services that are offered, and then at the bottom you can see the less than 1% of the visits are around reproductive health or contraceptive visits. And I think I remember when we were chatting, you said even of that really small percentage, a lot of them end up involving their families anyways in that?
Yeah, of the students that I do contraceptive stuff with, I would say about between 50 and 60% of the parents are aware. It's just easier for them to get it at school because they can see me faster.
So that's just data on usage. And then the next slide, again, I'll turn it over to Katie to share a little bit about the benefits for staff at Central. So from the nurses to the counselors, and I think the next slide we have is a quote from one of the nurses. So I'll turn it over to Katie.
So this is from the registered nurse, school nurse at Central, and the benefit that having a school-based health center right there has been to her in providing care for students and to the health assistant. When students come in with sore throats, earaches, headaches, that sort of thing, at every other school, our choice, if say they have a sore throat and they feel like they can't stay at school, we have to call a parent. They have to either leave work and come pick up their student, or if leaving work is a barrier, then if the student doesn't have, a fever of over 100, they stay at school, but they feel terrible. The parent may or may not get them a doctor's appointment. It might take 48 hours if they took them home, and that student stays out till they get to the doctor. But at Central, in that scenario, they can go to the school-based health center, find out if they have strep right away, find out if they're contagious and need to go home or can go back to class. Same with, say they cut themselves in shop class. At another school, they're going to have to leave. They're going to have to go to urgent care. Parent is going to have to leave work or not if they don't have transportation. So going back to an earlier slide, the school-based health center is providing access to a lot of families who have barriers. They can't leave work because they might lose their job. They maybe only have one car and dad took it over the mountain that day. So it just really helps in those acute situations to get access sooner, to treat things sooner, which is best in healthcare. And if it's not serious, say they cut their hand, they needed a couple stitches, and then they could probably go back to class, I would guess, Rosa. So they don't miss a day of school at high school, which is a lot. And then another one that the nurse wrote is when new kids move into the area and they are having a hard time finding a primary care provider, which is hard. Sometimes it takes 3 months to get established with a doctor, or they have a wait list. They can have the students start at the Warrior Wellness Clinic. Maybe that's not going to be their ultimate primary care provider, but it gets them started with health care. So it really is, it provides, it decreases barriers to health care for a lot of the students and families in these situations. These are quotes from some of the counselors at Central, and I can speak to this a little bit, and maybe Stephen can. It's somewhat similar on the behavioral health side as the medical side. So there's only so much a school nurse can do, and then students need a higher level of care. And there's only so much a school counselor can do based on their role. They're not there to provide therapy. And so when they come upon students who need a higher level of care, they can send them to the school-based health center.
Yeah, and it's just a walk across the hall. And there's many times where students are actually actively, or families are actively looking for mental health services and can't access them. Either they're not getting calls back, and we're experiencing that just in our own referral sources. And so having somebody on site that they can honestly tell you right there in the session, I've been looking for somebody for years, is really refreshing. And so to have a counselor from the school come over, and it's just a brief introduction. It's not like we're doing therapy that day. This is what the services are offered, and we really leave it to the student to decide if they want to be there or not. It's not they have to be there, and we make that very clear. So it's a very voluntary-based system, and so those counselors just is as a point of reference or a warm handoff. And if I am not the right fit for them, let me get you some referrals out into the community that we know are taking new patients, and let's get you plugged in.
I can talk about this a little bit. So we do have an advisory committee that meets 3 times a year, and this is made up of obviously wellness center staff, but also district staff. We have students, parents, and then representatives from the health department. We have representatives from, we have physicians in town. There have been people that have come and gone on that advisory committee over the past several years, but we meet quarterly during the school year and then take the summer quarter off. And in these meetings, we review the data. So we look at, what services are we providing? What are we seeing kids for? What are the needs this year? So an example of that would be like in 2021 when you couldn't be at school if you had one COVID symptom. We realized we need to be doing more COVID testing. So we got in a ton of COVID tests so that we could provide COVID tests for all the students at Central High School. And then we were also COVID testing for any teacher in the district that needed a COVID test. So we really try to be accommodating for the needs that are identified in the district, while also knowing that we have really specific directives for what we're trying to achieve on an overall student health standpoint. But we use that forum to get feedback and make sure that we're on the right track.
Okay, so the last section, and so after the last work session, we met with some of the staff at Junction and just wanted to get a better understanding of kind of what are they hearing from their community, if this was to go into the school building or be at the school. And so on the next slide, I just want to remind, I skipped a spot, but from the conceptual design through DD on the new Junction site, the Design Advisory Committee had talked about having a space within the building for the new high school. And I know there's been some questions around that. The results of the previously mentioned assessment helped drive the committee to move forward with that decision to our current construction documents, and the district was working under the direction of that previously passed board resolution in support of the school-based health centers. On the next slide, y'all already saw this last week, but just a reminder, we still have some of those needs that were identified in 2017, 2018 still exist. We had our priority area present last week around student wellness, and also the folks from Healthy Kids Colorado came and presented. And I know it's really small on the screen, but just the data on middle school and high school students who are experiencing mental health needs, and also thinking about things like suicide and whether or not they're attempting suicide. So the needs are still real in our community and in our district. And so this is just some of the data that was presented last board meeting. So the next slide. So when we met with some of the folks from Junction, we thought before we even move forward with exploring this any further, like, is there actual desire within that school building from families and staff for something like a school-based health center at the school? So we sent a pretty simple survey to any families and staff who had an email address on file for us, asking the question around, do you support having a school-based health center at Grand Junction High School? And so this was the results of that. So around 70% answered yes, around 24% answered no, and then a little over 6% said they weren't sure. I think this is important because, you can, with any data, you can fixate on which part of the data you want to focus on. Obviously, there are almost 70% of the folks that said yes, but also, recognizing that there are around 24% of the folks at Junction who are not in support of this. And so how do we navigate that with whatever direction we're going to head next, I think is important. So, but that was data that we collected. And so, the recommendation, so the next slide, really is, one, I want to pause here actually before we go into anything about next steps and just see, because the request was from the board last time was to have folks here to be able to present, answer any questions that the board have. Like I said, hopefully to clarify, we get a lot of emails. We've gotten a lot of emails about this topic, right? And so trying to clarify some of the misconceptions maybe they're out there, or answer any questions that folks had about the current services at Central High School. But also, like I said, I wanted to make sure that board members have an opportunity to ask any questions they might have. So before we let them loose and leave the meeting, does anybody have any questions for Rosa, Stephen, or Katie? That's amazing. There's no questions. I'm looking at Doug because he's looking at me.
You did a good job, I think, expressing.
No, I think, I suspect I speak for a lot of people here. I appreciate all your efforts on behalf of the staff at Central and the kids and the families, because I know that's what you're after, right? Good outcomes for our kids and so forth. And obviously, there's a lot of strong data that supports you've been successful. And I know it's not perfect, but it's you're doing what was intended to have happen. So thanks for the information. It's terrific, all of you. Thanks.
I think you did a good job, Dr. Hill, of assessing the concerns that the board has heard from our community, and thank you all for answering those. I think that's been a lot of what has been heavy on people's hearts, just knowing what does happen and what doesn't happen inside the clinic. So I appreciate that clarity.
So, I'll just say this, I think from looking at the data, I think we can all agree the need for more, mental health, physical health for our students, and even staff, because I know staff come and utilize the school-based health center, but just in general for our community and our district still exists. Like our school-based health center is the end-all be-all, and they're going to solve all our problems. No, it's an avenue to be able to address needs at a specific campus. But even if we were to put one at, all of our high schools, we still have need at middle schools and elementary. So that I just want to clarify, like, this isn't going to solve all of our problems, but it's an avenue to try to address some of those needs that we've identified. I mentioned last board meeting that, having conversations with the 5 board members, like I don't think anybody on this board would say that there isn't a need. I think all 5 of y'all agree that that there's definitely a need in our community for support for our students and staff. Again, it's around that the mechanism for delivery, and so there's a resolution for y'all to take action on later. I think the next slide maybe has the language in it, but recommendation to move forward with a health center at Grand Junction High School, and outside of that, leaving the logistics and everything up to the school district to work out all the other logistical things that we need to work out. So.
Can I ask one question real quick? Is there anything that a school-based health center does? So school-based health center, the concept, the services provided are regulated by the state, from my understanding. Is there anything that we provide that, or that a school-based health center is designed to provide that we don't feel the need to provide? That, like, are there any types of appointments that are detailed as a school-based health center that aren't needed in your experience? They're all needed.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really surprised at the variety of things that walk in the door. I think there's just a lot of needs that go unaddressed for all different kinds of reasons. But I think that's the lovely thing about having this sort of integrated care model is that, you know, somebody walks in the door and they're tired and they've been having headaches and they don't feel well. Well, we do a depression screening and, oh wait, maybe it's depression. You know, there are a lot of ways that these different things present. And so having different kinds of providers there to address those needs and to know what to look for and to get them into the right hands is a really helpful thing. So I can't think of anything that hasn't been needed at some point. I mean, it's hard to know what you don't know. But at this point, I can't think of anything.
And I think that just to add to that, just to reiterate, we're just building bridges. If it's not us, it's our community. And we're not, even if it's just a stop in, hey, I have a quick question. Not all of it is an appointment-based thing. It's a question, we're referring, they're out. So no, I haven't seen anything that we haven't had an answer or some type of productiveness to a student or something.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think, is there any more? Oh, that's Ian. Okay, sorry, unless there's more.
How many responses total you got back from the survey? I know you just presented percentages, but I'm just kind of curious, like.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact number, but I think we looked at the percentage and it was somewhere just under 20%, which for a survey is actually a pretty good response rate. I went to Callie and said, what's our response rate to other surveys? And they're usually pretty low. So I want to say it was a little under 20% was the response rate. So.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No questions. So so on June 6th, I raised the issue that the board renew the motion regarding Resolution 222369. The resolution addressed the need for a student-based health clinic. The motion is now in front of the board. I'm just getting my notes, sorry. I would like to renew that motion, but wish to amend it using, amend the previous language using the language that's outlined in Resolution 2223-140. So I move to amend the language on that, I move to amend that language and vote on 2223-14.
Second.
All right, so you're moving the business item up to make the motion for the vote now?
Yes.
Okay. Is there? Well, turn your microphone on. We're in discussion now. We've had a motion and a second, so now there's discussion.
Yeah, I'm just curious why we would not stay with the agenda and do that after public comment.
Well, either doesn't matter to me. I mean, I'm still moving to change the language on it, so we can do either or.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm just saying, why wouldn't we keep it in the order of the agenda on the meeting?
We can do that.
Do all of that at the end of the meeting after we hear
We
public.
can do that.
Can we pull the resolution back up?
Well, we did notice a typo on the second paragraph. It says SBHS. It should be SBHC. So we'll fix that. Yeah.
I'm curious why it says a health center instead of a school-based health center. If nobody knows, then I propose it says school-based health center.
I think that was to encompass the board wanting to be able to look at all options. So not locking ourselves into one option.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
It gives the district the latitude and longitude to be able to look at every single option out there.
I'm not sure. Are there other alternative models other than school-based health centers?
We don't know. So I think that's what the community is asking, is if we could just exhaust and look at all of those things.
I don't understand. I don't understand what we're driving at there.
So we've all had this resolution now for a couple of days, so either we can table it and wait if we need to,
I did not see
clarity.
that language. That language was added, in my understanding, last night, the health center. I've not had that for days. But I'm not proposing that we table it at all. I think we need to vote on this tonight. I just want to understand, what is a health center if not a school-based health center? What is the difference?
For me, it would just leave it open for them to look at all options instead of just relegating it to be what is outlined as a school-based health center only. It just makes it it just allows the district to do the work that we've asked them to do. And it just gives them more options to look at instead of just singularly. That may be the only thing that they find is best to do, but it may be also that there are some other things that they can add in, not just that.
Okay.
If we put it just that in the resolution, then that's all they can look at. They can't look at anything else. It would be the way I would read that. But if we're assured that there will be a health center that will include all of the things that the district does the work to find that is what the community wants, then it may be an HBAC, it may be that plus something else. It may be, I don't know, it could be any variety of things. But if we say in the resolution that it has to be an SBHC, then it narrows what the district can even look at and consider.
I have two questions about that. One, so we're saying a school-based health center or more is what we're saying. But the second thing is, you said that if they find that the needs of the community, we've already done the needs assessment. A needs assessment is not part of this, correct?
No, it's not.
So we're saying a school-based health center and more.
I mean, the whole idea is just to not box the district in as they're looking at all of the things that they could do to serve the student population. If we make it specifically an yes, you know what I'm talking about, SBHC, then that's all they can look at. They can't add anything to that. So just by saying that we're going to have a health center, I mean, somebody else is going to probably be doing it. I don't know how they'll go at that.
If I could throw, it sounds like, see if I've got this right, maybe Tammy might be able to help us with this. It sounds like, Director Lima, you're suggesting that the semantics there could be limiting to what our district does.
Correct.
But you're speculating, we don't know that for sure, so I guess, Tammy, is there anything that you know is if you call it school-based health clinic or health center or whatever we call it, is that going to limit us or Dr. Hill and his group to follow this resolution? Do you see that being limiting?
It can be, and so some of the concerns that we talked about.
Get a little closer, Tammy. Those just are
Sorry, some
so
of the
sensitive.
I don't know if this is on.
You just have to get super close to it.
Okay, it is on, all right. It can be, and some of the things that we've been talking about are, obviously we have a big portion of people who said yes on the limited survey we did, which was limited, but there is a portion of people that said no. So some of the things that we want to talk about are, what are all of our options? We all agree that people need the medical, the mental, the dental health. Does it have to be necessarily a school-based health center in that exact wording that requires certain terms and conditions? Could it be other physicians? Could it be other dental offices still providing the services without locking into it? The language was simply to allow us, Dr. Hill, to look into everything without necessarily naming it that way, but defining it as a health center that provides medical, mental, and dental services.
So it sounds like we're actually debating two different things. So what I heard from the team is that the integrated health model is part of where the power is. The access, the proximity, and the integrated health model are what produce the outcomes of better student outcomes. So if we're saying, okay, we're going to try to find a dentist office who will come in and a medical provider who can provide some of these services.
We're not saying we're piecemealing it out, but we're saying we haven't actually taken a look at everything. And so part of the concern was listening to everybody and taking a look at, well, aside from doing the one grant with one provider, is that the only option that we have? I don't know. I haven't looked at that. We haven't taken the time to look at, but we do know that integrated services, medical, mental, and dental are important. How do we provide that? But we're going to look at the different options to get to that point, which is why it says a health center that does provide those three various things, knowing that integrated health is important, just as what they've discussed. Now, how are we going to go about establishing it? It may be very much this exact same way, just not taking a look at it.
It feels like we're trying to reinvent the wheel a little bit, but my concern here is that we're washing down the language so that there's the potential to not provide these services. That is my concern. My concern.
I would disagree. That's not what's going on. That's not the conversations that have been had. It's very important that these services are provided. It's my understanding from all five of you that it is important. It has been important. Now, how do we get there, taking into account everybody's position and opinion, including community members as well? And so one of that is to pass this resolution and then direct Brian and whoever he charges to move forward with looking into all options, one of them being the same thing that we have at Central.
What did you just say? A traditional, what did you?
Just the specific.
School-based health center. I guess that, yeah, I'm just left really wondering what are the possible impacts of this and how to best create the support that our students need. And I'm just left wondering, again, so, we have this entire state regulatory framework. We have 70 of these across the state. I'm not hearing a lot of evidence and information that those are inadequate and need to be improved upon. I'm sure everything always needs to be improved upon, but I'm just left wondering why. I'm just concerned that we are not going to. I believed that we were voting for a school-based health center, and it sounds like there's the potential that we could come out of this and not have a school-based health center.
Well, I don't necessarily think I personally have talked to you today and went over this language.
And I voiced all of these concerns.
Yeah, and I explained it, what we discussed. You're going to have to be trusting that Brian is going to do what's best for the district, keeping in mind all of your concerns that have been raised, as well as what we've heard from the community, and then move forward in that area.
I feel like we're either lacking transparency here and saying like, well, no, we're going to do a school-based health center. We're just not calling it that, or that we're not going to end up with that. I'm concerned about, words matter, and I think the distinction is it semantics, does it not matter, or does it matter? And I am, again, I understand that this was changed last night, and again, if the rationale is at least a school-based health center or better, that makes sense to me. If we're saying like, we're actually gonna change the model of a school-based health center, we don't think that it's working, even though our teams are saying that it's working, then I'm just concerned about what we're going to end up with.
Well, I think it just doesn't pigeonhole everybody into one specific definition. It makes it more broad. And it allows the district to add to it, to make possible changes in that specific model as outlined by, I think CDPHE has a very specific outline of what that means. And then it goes into the business side of it as well. This just allows the district a little more flexibility to look at it from different directions. It just leaves it more open while still saying we believe that these services are important. Now, how do we get there to best serve our community?
Do we think that something isn't working? So if we do something different, does that mean that we're going to do the same different thing at Central?
We don't know. That's why we're charging the district to take it and do that work.
Yeah, I think because this has been a touchy topic, we really tried to take a step back to find a way to bring everybody together on this. And leaving this up to the district to look at this information and bring it back and show the community that we did the legwork on it and that this model may be exactly what we end up with. I think if we don't do that, I think the community is going to feel that we didn't do the job of looking into what we feel is best, absolutely best. And so, again, it doesn't pigeonhole us into one particular thing.
So what is our process for deciding what model
Well, that
of
is going to
health
be up to
service?
Dr. Hill. The board.
I'm asking him the question.
So we will definitely pull together a group of folks. I mean, Katie will be involved in that, folks at the campus as well, to have that discussion. You know, I think it could look a lot of different ways. The resolution in front of you, it specifies what services have to be provided there. So then I think we need to have a discussion with that group around how can we make sure that those services are provided within the school. If through that discussion we decide that a school-based health center model is the right route to go, then that's the route we would move towards. But yeah, honestly, we have not been through this process outside of what we established at Central already. So I would need to pull the folks together ideally tomorrow, and start having that conversation around how do we explore this.
But what exactly, I don't understand what exactly you're exploring. That's what I just don't understand.
Yeah, the way I'm reading this is that we would look at all the ways that we could possibly offer, where's the line in there? Medical, mental health, and dental services at Grand Junction High School through a health center. You know, I'm not an expert in this area, so I don't know if there are other models out there that could be explored. So.
And then they were going to look at one big concern has been the location of the clinic. So it would be established on the campus somewhere. So they were going to put the committee together to look at whether inside the school was best or outside somewhere on the campus. So the committee, at Dr. Hill's discretion, is going to look at all of those options and then and move forward with that. So I think the board can express our concerns and what we'd like for them to look at, and then we need to just hand it over to the district to do the work.
So two things there, definitely dig into the location in a second. But so are we saying establish an integrated health center? Or are we not saying an integrated health center?
I don't want to. If the board wants to change language in this resolution, we can change that language. It doesn't say that now.
Okay. I definitely propose that we change it to say establishing an integrated health center, but what are medical services? What does that mean?
It's what they prefer now. It's what we pretty much do now.
Well, but that's specifically for a school-based health center. That's what defines those medical services. Yeah. So if we're just saying general medical services, what does that mean? And how would we, that's a universe of care that, again, we would be duplicating what the state has done in deciding what care students need in these schools, and then the, decades of data for what that care looks like. So if we're just saying general medical services, that's different. If we're saying school-based health center medical services, then that's what we're saying. But if we're not saying school-based health center medical services, then what are the medical services that this board is directing this district to pursue? There's only 2 MRI machines in town. Do we need another MRI? Like, what does that mean? how do we vote on something where like there's no what is a medical service? If it's limited to the bounds of a school-based health center, then we all know what that means.
If I could interject, I think, and forgive me if I'm wrong or misrepresenting our group, I think the five of us have been going around in circles on this for quite some time. And I think there's been a recognition that that not only is not our job to get into the details, right? I think we've been misguided, all of us, to get into parts that we never do for anything else in our district. When we contracted out for Grand Junction High School, we did not get into the details about everything that was going to be done along with other things we've done. I think what we have done over these many months is convey concerns and questions that we all have collectively. And I think there's been a sense with this resolution that let's pass this on to Dr. Hill and his team as our superintendent, our leader, to address the issues, not only what he's hearing in the community, at Grand Junction High School, and from the five of us. And what I want to make sure more than the exact wording is, do you feel limited, Dr. Hill, in what your task is? If it's called whatever we call it, do you feel limited in, my sense is, right, we're not putting you on the spot, you have a pretty good idea what this board is asking for, what the community's asking for, what's been successful at Central, what the Junction community wants. Do you feel limited by whatever we put up there? If it's integrated or not integrated or school-based or not school-based, do you feel you can do your job with whatever we put up there?
So I wouldn't say feel limited, but like I said, I interpreted the second to last paragraph, those services being integrated, but if it helps to clarify, we can always add language in there to say integrated services, including, I'm trying to think of how to word it in a way that brings it all together. So I don't feel it limits, but I also want to make sure we're addressing.
Well, and Dr. Schultes, if I'm misrepresenting you, please correct me. I think, and I have apprehensions as well, that I don't want to, through some channel, divert what I believe we're all trying to get, and that is services for our kids and our staff and our families at Grand Junction High School, as simple as that, and not try to make it more complicated than it is, because there's a lot of work to find out what's going to be best. And we have a model, thank goodness it's working. We'd be negligent not to look at that as a template for success. And so I think if I'm hearing you right, you don't want us to go down the path where you and your team come up with something that is so contrary to what we are envisioning happening. You see, am I right, Dr. Schultes? Is that kind of the concern?
I'm just gonna say this more clearly. What I'm concerned about is that we're using the term medical services to mean one thing to half of us and another thing to the other half of us. And so if we don't define that, I am concerned that we are using language to hide our intent.
So if we were just to change medical services to include behavioral, medical, and dental.
So, but I think if I was tasked with finding medical services, I would either look to a school-based health center model to understand what that is, or I wouldn't. And so, again, my question is, what does medical mean to us? To me, it means the medical services provided by a school-based health center. And if it does not, if we are using that language to not provide some of those services, we need to be clear about what that means to us.
Couldn't we just call it primary care medical services? I mean, I think that's exactly what you're doing, is you're kind of that first point of entry, like you would going to a primary care doctor, and if there is another specialist or something needed, you guys are referring them. So I think primary care defines what those medical services would be.
We are really wrapping ourselves in knots to avoid saying a school-based health center, and it's confusing to me.
Why don't you just call it a wellness center? Like, it's a wellness center, so just call it that's what Central is. Central doesn't say students base, it just says Student Warrior Wellness Center. So we just call it Tiger Wellness Center, or you call it whatever you want to call it. But it's a wellness center.
Right, or establish a health wellness center. I mean, I don't,
So it's doctor, but it's not medical doctor, Hill. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around what even, when y'all put medical on the stats, the data we got was around, so the number one requested service at Central was around nutrition and physical activity, counseling, BMI, common cold and virus issues, and then there's blood pressure management, sports physicals, STI testing, reproductive health education, immunization counseling, injuries, gastrointestinal issues, concussion, asthma, vision changes, disturbances, abnormal management of infections. Those were the items that were provided to us from the work that's been done at the Warrior Wellness Center. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to, like, I hear what you're saying. So I feel like what you're saying is like medical services could mean a million things also in addition to this. So is the concern that we would
some of those.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all of the above, right? It means nothing. It's a universe of services.
Then it would be okay to say primary care, because that's exactly what it is. Because when you go to a primary care doctor, they don't have a list of services. You just know what you're going to a primary care physician for. So if you change the language to say establishes a health center that provides primary care services, mental and, dental, primary care, medical, mental, and dental services, you are getting the litany of medical services that are included in a school-based health center, if not maybe even more.
Okay. So,
So there you have your definition, because who's going to argue with primary care?
okay.
I mean, right?
Okay, so an integrated health center that provides primary care-based medical services.
So establishing an integrated health center that provides primary care, medical primary, or you can put medical, parenthesis, primary care, parenthesis, mental and dental services, that. And so there is your definition that we intended to be integrated services. And when we're talking about medical, we're talking about anything that you walk into a doctor's office for.
I also, looking at this, and I'm looking at Stephen, I wonder if a better term besides mental would be behavioral health, because that's the term that's being used. Okay.
You may speak.
Well, since we're modifying, which is fine, and we came up with mental because I think it was pulled from the last one, but behavioral services.
Behavioral health.
Behavioral health
Behavioral health,
services,
yeah.
there's probably even more, identifying rather than just mental health services.
So I agree with Doug. I think at a certain point, this just outlines the district with how to move forward. And I think individually, we all meet with Dr. Hill. We can express maybe some different things that we want them to explore. But I think this is a resolution that gets this board all on the same page. And so I just think that, we should avoid getting into the weeds too much on this. And then we've hired Dr. Hill. He's the CEO of the district, and we just charge him with this, and then he goes and does the work.
And I think then you need to move to amend the language to the way you want this resolution, and then we need a second, and then you need to vote at least to amend that language.
So would it say, therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby wishes to proceed with establishing a health center, an integrated health center that provides primary care medical services, behavioral health, and dental services?
I think we could say, you could say an integrated health center or a health center that provides integrated.
Health services.
Yeah. Okay, so I move to amend the language.
Against Bridget can get that.
Okay. So I move to amend this resolution to say, in the first therefore paragraph, to proceed with establishing an integrated health center that provides primary care medical services, behavioral health, and dental services.
Okay, I have that. So what we'll do at the time that you go to vote on the resolution?
If I have a second.
A second.
Well, we're not to the
We're
point
not
of
doing
voting
that yet. We
so
can't even
when
get
you
that
go
part
to
done. Okay.
Motion
We're
to,
ready to get that part done.
Well, no, the problem is we have a motion and second on the floor. So you can table it to be voted on later in the agenda, and there's no discussion with the tabling. So we can move to table it to vote per the agenda, and then we can get the revised agenda, and we can move with that if,
and I do show Will motioned and Carrie seconded. Yeah.
okay.
I think that the other thing we haven't discussed is just putting it on the campus. And I think I just want to understand how that is going to be determined, the location.
Yeah, so I talked to Clint actually today, and similar to what I mentioned earlier, we want to pull together Clint, administration from the school, and then anybody that's currently working on the construction project at Junction to just look at all the options that are available. I don't even know what all those are anymore, but what are the options that are available to have it on campus, and then weigh pros and cons and figure out what's the best location for it. So we do know that we have a space in the design of the new Grand Junction High School to place it there. There's also been ideas thrown out around. There's a 700 building that we're saving. Right now it's being, the design work has gone into, my understanding, to have it be like a field house kind of space. But what are the pros and cons of that? There was a time when we were talking about a building that was across the street that's still technically part of the school campus. But I know I've heard concerns about that as well. And so I just think some due diligence would just be so we sit down and weigh all the pros and cons of that, and then just make a decision on where we think the best location would be for school, a health center at Grand Junction High School that takes into account access, safety, all those things. So, yeah.
And that would be you and Clint, or would that go back to the committee, the Grand Junction High School?
So it's a good question. I'm envisioning, at least for the discussion around the location, I want to involve admin at the building as well, because they're going to be the ones living with it every day. And like I said, I need Clint's help on that, but somebody from either our owner's rep or somebody that's currently working on the project to just kind of talk about what that's going to look like once the actual project's done, or even during the construction of the project. So we have to remember that we have a whole year where we're still going to be tearing down another building. So I just think having an opportunity to have those conversations, I haven't had those conversations, but and look at all the options and just make a decision on where we think it's best. So
Can I request that either the city, the county, or RTPO be consulted about all of the pedestrian wrecks on Fifth Street if you're considering putting it in that outbuilding?
And I think, in the spirit of also this collaboration, we have about 24% that absolutely said no to the clinic, and then there was about 6 or 7% that said they were uncertain. So I would just like to ask that there's some balanced voice when we're going to this, just so that everybody feels that they've been heard, through the process. I mean, from staff and parents at Junction. All right, so there's a motion and second on the floor. We're still in discussion. So there can be further discussion, or if you want to wait, then this needs to be tabled.
So I motion to table the motion I made.
Table the vote till later in the agenda? Yes. Okay. So is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, we'll take the vote.
Okay, Mrs. Heights?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Dr. Schultes?
Yes.
All right, Dr. Hill, was there anything else?
No, I just, again, thanks to Rosa and Stephen and Katie and Tammy for all you are doing at the Warrior Wellness Center, and thanks for being here tonight. I told you before I was trying to keep y'all out of it, but I thank y'all for being here, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Does the board need a quick break? I don't know how many we have to speak. Okay, we'll take a quick.
So, and I just want to mention something too, because we've had this conversation. So, we value public comment, we value public input, but we also value safety of our board members, and so I'm requesting. We don't really have like in a normal boardroom. You have kind of a dais, and there's a clear, for lack of a better term, separation. I'm trying to be tactful in the way I say this, but for the interest of everybody in the room, I'm asking that folks don't come beyond these tables over here. We have sometimes folks that want to go up and talk to Bridget. They want to go up and talk to individual board members. And I think it's just probably best interest of everybody if we just establish that we're not going to have people coming beyond these tables. That this board has been more open to hearing feedback than anybody. And so you have multiple ways you can get a hold of board members. But I'm just asking that we respect their space and safety. So is that all good? All right, thank you all.
Hey,
All right, we are going to get started back up here. If you can find your seats, please. I swear I need my gavel.
will everybody please take your seats, please? Everybody take your seats so we can get going. Thank you.
All right, we are now going to move into the audience comments portion of our meeting. So please just be mindful of your neighbors if they're trying to listen to the board meeting. So if you want to have a conversation with your neighbor next to you, we ask that you just step out into the lobby because a lot of people come to listen to everything happening at the board meeting. Also, we know there's a lot of people who want to comment on the clinic this evening. We just ask to try to get through everybody on the list. If somebody's come up and said something that you already agree to, please just try to avoid duplicitous comments. So you can say, I agree with what's been previously said, and then you can add your flavor to it. But that'll just help expedite things because we would like to get through everybody on the list. So Director Jones will take it away. You have the timer here for the 3 minutes. And is the sound working this time? Okay, so you'll also get a little warning ding when you have 30 seconds left, so then you know to wrap up. And then there'll be one long tone when your time is up, and you will be cut off just because we want to try to get through everybody this evening. So.
And as we're speaking, we are okay with you clapping if you agree with something somebody says, but make sure no derogatory comments, no booing, no things like that, and just be be mindful. So I'm going to give a first up and on deck. So first up we have Tom Acker, and then on deck we have Miss Ricky Howie.
Okay, thank you, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking in favor of the the school-based health center. I'm a professor emeritus of Spanish from Grand Junction, from Mesa, Colorado Mesa University, and I'm also one of the founding members of the Dual Immersion Academy, and I also am president of Hispanic Affairs Project Board. In the Census Reporter, the district has a population of 9.6% that live below poverty, and also 9% mobility rate, which means 9% of our community members, and those are the students, are moving every year. They've moved in the last year. So this 12% children in poverty is a demographic that this clinic would definitely be serving, where they will likely not have access to services otherwise. We should also mention that 4% of the students speak Spanish at home. In working with Spanish-speaking students at Colorado Mesa University, there's mention of intergenerational trauma that has occurred as a result of their lived experiences. And so I think the behavioral component in this center would be really important for that demographic, and as your speakers already mentioned, for other demographics as well. So thank you for the time to give you my perspective.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ricky Howie, and on deck, Ms. Jennifer Reyes.
Good evening. The materials list did not go up on the website until sometime between 3:30 and 4 o'clock this afternoon. What that means is that anyone who's interested in talking about any of the items on the agenda below the consent agenda didn't have enough time to read that material. The doors didn't open till 4:45, and the materials were laid out along the back. But again, for anyone who wanted to speak on any of those items, we did not have enough time to digest the budget or any of the policy changes. I am suggesting that you do not vote on any of those items and plan them for another meeting. The second item I'd like to mention is a library policy. Your library material selection has 4 legal references at the bottom. One of those references has been deleted from the statutes. Not just that, but the whole category. One of the other references has to do with expulsion and bullying. Has nothing to do with a library. The first reference is, as I say, night follows day, 2 follows 1. We get the statute for number 2, 22-1-104, parens 2. But the previous section talks about the requirement for a high school graduate to include sections on LGBTQ, lesbian, African American studies, American Asian studies. And those are things, while I might agree with the study of them, a lot of people don't. So by ignoring the basic idea of that reference, I think it was deceitful. And I'd also like to mention that the necessity to have a legal reference is emphasized by the use of the beginning fund balance, where at the very beginning it states the Colorado state statute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Howie. Up now we have Ms. Jennifer Reyes, and on deck, Jose Chavez.
Good afternoon, distinguished board. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Jennifer Reyes, and I am a single mother. I'm a daughter of immigrants, and I'm raising my children here in Grand Junction. A school-based health center would absolutely benefit my children. I live in the 81506 area code, and I will have children going to that high school. The reason that I think that you should call it a school-based health center is because there are 70 others in the state. It's already proven. We're not here to create ideas. It's already done. And additionally, there's special funding that goes limited to the school-based health clinics. So I do believe that that's something you should look at. Why is that important? I grew up in poverty. I grew up in a single apartment up until I was 18. And now I don't live that way, but I absolutely understand both sides. I am a Latino single woman. I represent 12% of the students in your district. We have a really hard time. Now I'm a business owner and I carry a P&L and a balance sheet, but that's not the case when I lived with my parents. Even though they gave me all the love that they could, poverty is not something that you can fix away with a label. And it's not something that you can give transportation to if a person needs to go to a health center. You just can't do that. When you've lived in poverty, you understand you don't have access. School-based health centers give access. Please, please consider that. I represent a large silent majority that you don't see here, and that will change by 2042. Thank you all for your attention.
Up next, we have Jose Chavez, and on deck, Mila Stephen.
Hello, all. I'm here to support Marillac having a school-based healthcare center at Junction High School, and this is why. One, Marillac was willing to pay rent for having a space at Grand Junction High School so they can assist our youth with their health needs. School-based health centers are a positive resource for students because regular doctor visits tend to be open mostly during school hours when the parents are at work. Parents tend to miss work and their child have to miss school when they are needing to see a doctor. School-based clinics help parents provide their child with quality health care. Their child does not need to miss a large portion of their school day, which helps the student to stay focused on their schoolwork, and their parent does not have to miss a day of work. School-based clinics are able to offer prevention and screening services for students. They're able to spot and treat mental health concerns. They're able to assist students with diabetes, ADHD, and anxiety. They are able to care for students, often with input from teachers who know the students well. School-based health clinics' goal is to keep students healthy and in school, so they will be able to achieve their full potential. They are also able to assist students to achieve health, the equity. They are able to work with school administrators, school nurses, teachers, and support staff to ensure the school health partnership will meet the students' needs. If we are to have a shared vision to improve all student success, then we must support school-based health centers at our schools. If we look at location, which you were speaking about, I am a retired probation officer and parole officer. Most of my kids that I worked with had trauma, and they had anxiety, and they had substance abuse issues. If you do not have your center that is in the school, you have it a block away, you'll never see that child again. They will just walk and continue walking away. If you care for them, you're going to keep them in the school. And if you care about kids, you're going to have school-based mental health care. Because I believe that a lot of my youth that I was treating as a parole officer may not have been there if they were able to receive some type of mental health care within the school district, which they did not receive. Thank you.
Up now, we have Ms. Mila Stephen, and on deck, Charlotte Allen.
Hello, my name is Mila Stepan. I'm from Grand Junction, and I go to Palisade High School. I'm also a West Slope Youth Voice intern, which is a nonpartisan student-led organization for student issues and advocating them to our elected officials. And I would like to start by first thanking Director Jones for his initiative in reintroducing this extremely important issue of school-based health centers to the board. We appreciate what you are doing for our students. I would also like to thank Dr. Schultes for her Pride Month statement. Now, I would like to look at some of the data behind why we believe that supporting school-based health centers is the best option for our students. First, I would like to look at the national benefits that we see from the 2,584 current school-based health centers in the United States. Now, according to County Health Ratings data from 2023, school-based health centers provide a medical home for students who are not otherwise have access to care. And according to the National Health Institution, school-based health centers have been associated with improved academic outcomes, including improved GPAs and improved attendance in students. However, it is also important to look at our district specifically, and for this, I look to Central High School's Warrior Wellness Center. Specifically, data is provided directly from this health center. It was found that school-based health centers have been shown to reduce suicide rates in student populations by 30%. And Central High School is proud to report that they have not reported a single student suicide since the introduction of the program in August of 2020. Other schools in the Valley cannot say the same thing. Also, looking at some data from Central's Warrior Wellness Program, we can see that it has seen over 2,000 students, nearly 5,000 visits, with 3,000 visits for physical health problems, and nearly 2,000 for mental and behavioral health reasons. These are services that are performed and benefit directly to our students. Now, if this is not enough to convince you why a school-based health center is an integral part of our community and our school, I would also like to look at some institutes that support school-based health centers, most namely the American Academy of Pediatrics, which recommends them as a safety net healthcare, and the American Public Health Association, which endorses student-based health center as a key mechanism through which gun violence prevention can take place. For all these reasons, we as a group, West Slope Youth Voice, stand in support of placing a school-based health center in Grand Junction High School and hope that you too can see the clear, direct student health benefits of these centers. Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have Ms. Charlotte Allen, and on deck, we have Chris Hoke.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Allen. I'm also a student in your district. I am going to be a senior at Palisade High School. And as a high school student, I've seen so many issues with student health centers. They are so important for students to be able to receive physical, mental, and dental health care. So many students that I see and personally know don't have the ability to get health care when they need it. A school-based health center on campus allows students to be able to receive the treatment that they need, when they need it, where they need it. I would also like to thank Director Jones for reintroducing this as an issue for the school board. I would also like to thank Dr. Schultes and Director Levinson for continual support of the school-based health clinic. These health clinics are so important for students, and one of the main things that's important for them is the location. An off-campus school-based health clinic is not useful to students. It's hard enough for me most days to get a pass to go to the bathroom, which is down the hall from my class or even across the hallway from my class. There's a lot of days where it's even difficult just to do that. So getting a pass to go off campus across a major road to a health clinic may be impossible for some students. It's also difficult for students to address that they need to go to a health clinic specifically for mental health care. Sometimes it's difficult for a student to admit that they're in crisis and that they need to go seek help. And it's even harder for a student to do that when they have to cross a major roadway to receive necessary care for them. Another thing that's been an issue for me with the discussions around the health clinic are student involvement. Multiple different times, concerns about the health clinic have been brought up and need to be discussed with parents and staff members. Yet students are the ones who this most directly affects. This affects a student's access to healthcare and behavioral healthcare and dental care. Students need to be included in these conversations about why health clinics are important, and you need to hear from students directly about why these are important and how much of an impact they have for students. It's important for me as a student to feel supported by my district, and it's hard to do that when I see pushback for an on-campus school-based health center. Another issue I've had is with the bill language of this resolution. The bill language makes it seem as if this is not as much of a pressing issue as it is. And it also makes it seem that the school board does not want to continue working on having this health clinic on campus and paid for by Miralac for students. Miralac has already funded this clinic for students, and students have expressed their interest in having a clinic and how important it is for them to get health care. It's important to me that I recognize that the school board is supporting student issues and listening to them about what they want and why it's important to them. Thank you.
Up next, we have Chris Hoke, and on deck, Ruth Kinnan.
Thank you. Thank you all for the presentation today, because I have learned a lot and some of my concerns were addressed, so I'm happy about that. The one thing that I think I just want to bring up is I was glad for the discussion about semantics, I guess, but also it's my opinion that we never really had a choice with this. There was only the one option. And I think, did voters get a chance to express their opinion in this too? Because that's what it's all about. We all need to have choices and to make our own decisions on this and give our input on that. I'm not opposed to health care for students at all. I think it's greatly needed, and I know everybody's heart is in the same place with this here, as is mine. I think everybody here feels that way too. It's just the form of it, or the semantics of it, the definition of it. How does that, what are the processes that would entail with this? And I just think that it would be a good thing if there was more discussion on that, more time to, because I like to make my own decisions, but I would like to have options. If I go to a doctor and I have concerns, I say, what can I do? What are my options? And my doctor will give me the options, but he's not going to make the decision for me. I have to make it myself. And so I would just encourage and hope that you would give it some time to present the other options. So I'm kind of in agreement with, that discussion that y'all had. So thanks.
Okay, up now we have Ms. Ruth Kinnan, and on deck, Shalini Sheeran.
Hello, fellow board members and Superintendent Hill. I am here not to condemn or condone, but I have some questions that I realize nothing will be settled, answered here tonight, but I still want to present them for food for thought. We were to have a meeting with Mr. Jones through Mesa Valley Compass. We tried to get things together. Somehow or another, it never did work. So I'm going to ask these questions to you just for food of thought. Recently, the new members of the school board have come under fire. One of the accusations is that you've turned over the biggest decisions on the board to outside interests and fringe extremists who don't represent Mesa County families. What is your opinion? The Daily Sentinel recently ran an article outlining a complaint that had been filed with the Colorado State Attorney General's office naming you, Will Jones, Andrea Hutz, Angela Lima, and Superintendent Brian Hill, citing a breach of contract and abuse of board funds, particularly relating to the 3-2 vote on the board in March to reject the Marillac School-Based Health Center as part of the new Grand Junction High School building. What is your reaction to the complaint that was filed? Do you believe that the board issue was, as presented to voters, specifically included the Marillac Clinic Health Center? Yes or no? Was there a bidding process for the health clinic? If so, who were the competing companies and how was the bid awarded? Is there also a question? Is there also a question regarding a violation of the Tabor Act if the health clinic is now added inside the school? Initially, you opposed the clinic to being added to Grand Junction High School. Why did you oppose it, and how do you feel at this point, and why? And do you see any alternatives that may be at least partially satisfactory to both sides? Is it true that the Marillac Clinic would lose the grant money they were awarded if the clinic on the property owned by the district, such as the 800 building, but not within the new school? These questions to me are quite important. It's not that I'm against any health clinic. I'm not. I think that it is needed. I do believe that we have health issues. I do believe we have mental health issues, not just for the students, but for the adults. And the final thing I wanted to ask is, lost my trend of thought, sorry about that. If that school or that clinic is based within the high school, what happens the other 3 months out of the year to these people when that school is closed? We've got a gap here, so, you know, I'm just interested in that. Thank you, folks.
All righty, up next we have Shalini Sheeran, and on deck, Tom Sheeran.
I sent you guys all information on the Marillac Clinic and the school books, so I hope you guys read it. And I'm focused on the lies that have been given to the public. First of all, when we voted for the school to be built, Marillac Clinic was not included in that voting. And I don't appreciate being lied to. Will, I really appreciate you being honest and your feelings about of having a clinic and all that. And we do need health care for the kids. But my concern is, why are you just focusing on one child? Why aren't you focusing on the entire family? You can't fix that child unless the whole family is fixed. That's why I would rather have the clinic on, not inside the school building, but across the street so the entire family can use it and benefit the whole community, not just one child. And so the other issue I have is another lie by the CEO of Marillac Clinic. She personally lied to me when she said that they couldn't have it across the street because they wouldn't get the grant money. Noriega, who has a lawsuit against Marillac Clinic, stated that, yes, they could have it there. So please focus on the kids and the entire family, not just on one child. Okay, thank you.
Up next, we have Tom Sheeran, and on deck, Pete Hoisberg.
Okay, there's an old quote, when you see a situation you don't understand, look for the financial interest. In March, the school board voted against putting the clinic inside the new high school. At that time, the board offered Marillac the alternative to locate across the street on school property. This was a valid offer because, according to Colorado Revised Statutes 25-20.5-502, school-based health center means a clinic established and operated within a public school building or on public school property by the school district. There was a lot of misunderstanding at that time. I heard Marillac claim they couldn't get their grant money if the clinic was outside the school, but that was not correct. So I looked online, and on Marillac's own website was a quote from their CEO, K. Ramachandran. Due to the fact that privacy, safety, and walk-in accessibility are so important for students as best practices for any school-based health center, that option was unfortunately ruled out. So Marillac refused to cross the street because it wasn't a best practice. So let me see, D51 requires any kids living within 3 miles of a school to walk, but a high schooler can't walk across the street? Are you kidding me? And there's another saying, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Marillac walked away from a good solution from the community so that they could hold out for their best practice. And I wondered, why was that? And I went back to my first saying, when you see a situation you don't understand, look for the financial interest. So I looked at the original MOU signed between D51 and Marillac, and it says it'd be a district's responsibility to renovate and provide a clinic space rent-free, so no rent. The district would be responsible for all utilities, 3 telephones, internet access, janitorial services, routine maintenance, security, and IT support. And the school principal would be a liaison between the school and the school-based health clinic and planning and problem-solving issues concerning the school-based health clinic. So there's a huge financial incentive for Marillac to insist on being inside the school. It isn't for the welfare of the students, it's for the welfare of Marillac's profits. This whole effort to put the clinic inside the school is a deception. The district offered a viable solution to locate across the street, which in addition to being accessible for students, could also be accessible to the community, a compromise which could be a win-win for all. It's also highly suspicious that pouring of the concrete of the clinic site has been delayed and that the CFO for CFI Construction, Mr. Clay Marshall, just happens to sit on the Marillac board. These financial entanglements and conflicts of interest don't look good. Community access and support favor putting the clinic across the street, just as D51 offered, but if the board goes ahead and votes to put the clinic inside the high school, voters will remember that the next time you present a school bond issue looking for money. And I'll just point out also the survey that you all referenced about the 70% support for the clinic from D51 families. Well, that school bond went out to the whole community, not just school families. So it got voted for the clinic only, but that was the whole community. You're just surveying D51. So anyway.
Thank you, sir. Okay, up now we have Peter Hosberg, and on deck, Sarah Fletcher.
So thank you, board. Nice to see you all. So this to me seems like deja vu all over again. A year ago, last March, we reviewed a lot of these surveys. And we knocked down the data, and a lot of what we were told was true turned out not to be. So it seems to me there's more questions than answers, even after we've been through all of this. To shine some sunshine on the questions will hopefully provide solid answers. And with that said, I hopefully would ask the board to do as they've done with the school closure debate, and that's to form a research committee, including citizens, with students and non-students. Here are some questions that I have. When and why has D51 decided it's a good idea to be in the medical clinic business? If you look at the heading of your resolution, it said D51 School Board. It didn't say D51 Medical Board. I think you should stay in your lane. Why does a clinic need to be in the high school? Well, we just heard why. And we also heard earlier that at some point, it's the plan for these clinics to be in all of D51 schools. And will family members of the student have access to those clinics? If the family members are allowed to use the clinics, will that create additional security issues in the schools? And will D51 be liable for medical decisions gone wrong? Other issues needing to be addressed, and some people have already touched on it, is one, the responsibility that you have to the voters when we pass the bond issue. and re-voting on a previously approved item. I believe you guys work under Robert's Rules of Order, and that procedure needs to be followed. Conflicts of interest, which we just heard about. And how is this going to be affected by Tabor, which we also just heard about? And the other issue that you guys addressed quite frequently is the declining enrollment in D51 schools. And a lot of that is based on parents that don't trust the school district anymore and the decisions that are being made. Thank you for your time.
All right, up next, we have Ms. Sarah Fletcher, and on deck, Christy Anderson.
Good evening. I'd like to start things out with something positive. I saw the talk about the summer school, and my son is in the summer school program, and it's been a very positive program for him, and I appreciate the district getting him over the hump because he has a little issue with reading, so thank you for that. So I have a prepared statement, and because I do feel that transparency matters, data matters, and ethics matter. So I'm going to read what I have written here. At a meeting earlier this year, an FCI representative told the board there was a construction deadline. Then after the board voted not to include the clinic in the school, I was under the impression that the concrete would then be poured and that part of the building would then be worked on to prepare for other purposes yet to be determined because of that deadline. If construction would have been performed after the last resolution, as FCI had said, then that portion of the building would already be partly finished. At the last meeting, the board was told there was no deadline on construction, which is a question in my mind. When researching the School Board Health Center at Central High School ran by Marillac Health earlier this year, I actually found that the CFO of FCI Construction is on the board of Marillac Health, which was also mentioned. My concern is the fact that FCI could have possibly purposely delayed the construction, and what kind of conflict of interest that is, what kind of implication that would be on the board to have this relationship, especially because Marillac is a nonprofit, and what kind of recourse would there be with their nonprofit status? And as a taxpaying citizen, I'm asking the board to look into this conflict of interest and the potential manipulation of this process by one of the Marillac board members. Thank you.
Alrighty, up next, we have Ms. Christy Anderson, and on deck, I'm a butcher this like crazy, Mia Del Vegas Decker.
First, I just want to thank you for listening to everybody. I had this great narrative, but a lot of people have already talked about it. I want to go back to the voters. A lot of voters feel hoodwinked by this. It was not transparent in the ballot. And I've been in this district for a long time. We've been through a lot. We've had to build trust, and we will continue to have to build trust, and it could be harder. Isn't it a little puzzling and interesting to note that Marillac gave an ultimatum? They were not at all in the business of working together or compromising. I want to go back to that kids walking across the street. We have children walking across the street on 5th every day at Grand Junction High School for school. So I don't understand that part of it. Don't we call that bullying? Some of the conversations by some could be considered bullying. Not willing to negotiate or even have discussions. Why not community? St. Mary's, Cedar Point. We have few districts, 70 out of, I don't know what the total districts are in the state of Colorado, but that's pretty small. To those that call myself and others with the same thinking fearmongers or fringe voices, we are anything but. We are competent, principled parents. I'm a teacher. Community that we understand and we are voters, and we are very aware of data and how crucial it is in making decisions that will have a lasting effect. Do your research. Things are happening around us. People are done with government overreach. There are kids. It is a myopic view to only focus on high school students. I sit here as an elementary school teacher, and I think we continually say early intervention, but we're not putting any extra resources at our elementary or middle school levels. But we will have 2 clinics at the high school level that cut families out in a lot of cases. Do your research. We can all agree that our students need mental help. I see it every day. Why not have therapists within every single school in our district? In conclusion, unfortunately, it looks like the clinic will be moving ahead. First, I want to commend you, Dr. Hill, and your district team on the committee work surrounding the consolidation. We appreciate the in-depth and step-by-step communication as you went along. And our ask is the same. So I'm one person, but I'm speaking for many. I can tell you that. We ask and we implore you to create a committee that will have equitable voices, doctors that are for the clinic and against the clinic, students that are for the clinic and against the clinic, community members that are for the clinic and against the clinic, staff members that are for the clinic and against the clinic. We need all voices heard, and our hope is for equitable voices so that everyone will feel like what District 51 is doing is best for kids.
Alrighty, up next we have Maya, I'm just going to say Decker. And on deck is Justin Wyford.
Good evening, members of School District 51 Board of Education. I would like to open with a show of gratitude for letting me speak to you tonight and to Director Jones for reintroducing this topic. My name is Mia De Villegas Decker, a senior at Palisade High School and an intern at West Slope Youth Voice, and I will be speaking on behalf of Nathaniel Jones, a student at Central. Having only attended Central High School, I am very aware of the services provided there and have a good sense of the ones that excel in their mission. Out of the many services provided, the one me and many other students feel is the most beneficial to the students and staff at Central High School is the Warrior Wellness Center. As you are all aware, the Warrior Wellness Center offers medical, dental, and behavioral health services to the students and personnel at Central High School. Having the Warrior Wellness Center is a massive benefit to the well-being of staff and students. The Warrior Wellness Center is good and all, however, the reason I'm here tonight is to advocate for the Grand Junction High School equivalent. While you all bicker and argue on whether you should implement a wellness center in Grand Junction High School, hundreds of kids at Junction go without health care. Hundreds of kids go without dental care. Hundreds of kids battle with mental health. My generation, the generation in your schools right now, is at the forefront of one of the largest mental health crises in the nation. 42% of my generation is diagnosed with some sort of mental health condition affecting them in their day-to-day lives. At Central, the Wellness Center has a licensed behavioral health professional, and I have no doubt in my mind that the service being free and accessible has helped people cope and work through some of their issues. I've talked to multiple students at Central who have utilized the mental health services provided, and the majority of them have told me how much of a help it is having such an accessible resource right in their school. Grand Junction High School would benefit from the mental health resource and the healthcare services. At Central, the medical service is the most used. Over the years, there have been thousands of visits to the medical sector of the Warrior Wellness Center. There have also been people who have received higher quality and more informed medical care at the Wellness Center than at traditional doctor's office. I have a friend who got mono last year who was told at a traditional doctor's office that she just had a common cold. However, when she went to the Wellness Center after her symptoms worsened, they tested her for mono and were able to confirm she had it, which allowed her to treat it properly. All of it was free for her, by the way. Which is an incredibly important point, as 66% of all individuals who went to the Wellness Center either had a Medicaid or CHP health insurance. While Central may have higher percentage of students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch, it's not by much, with Central having 49% of students eligible and Junction having 41% eligible. With free and reduced health lunch numbers this close to each other, it is incredibly likely that the amount of students with Medicaid or CHP health insurance is within a similar margin. A wellness center in Grand Junction High School would give these children easier and higher quality access to Medicare. I understand some board members want a slow and in-depth review, but it's important. Thank you.
Okay, up next, we have Justin Wyford, and on deck, Ms. Diane Becker.
Hello, my name is Justin Whiteford, school teacher at Grand Junction High School. I'm here with roughly 40 parents, students, and staff, and we want to say thank you. First of all, these students tonight, as both a teacher and as a parent, they're stunning. I think they're amazing, so thank you. Thank you. We also want to thank you. I know it's been a couple weeks, it's been tough. We appreciate your dedication, your commitment to us. We just want everyone to know that Junction appreciates this. We do. We value that this room is fighting for us. You know, we value that you're fighting for our kids, and we want you to know that. So before the night ends, the Tigers are saying, you know, your strength is not your differences, it's your similarities. And I know in my heart something's going to pass tonight, and so I would say in a little over a year, we're going to be going to a brand-new building. Well, if you couple that with a health clinic, I mean, it is proud, it's exciting to be a Tiger. And I'll say this, when you're a teacher and you know that your building is in good health and you know that your students are getting good health, that's all you need. You can do your job. And so to eliminate those stresses, to eliminate those factors, allows us to do an exceptional job. And we value that, we appreciate that, and we know that in the end, everyone in this room is for kids. Both sides, I'm hearing everyone's for kids in a clinic. It's how it works and how it operates. And I think that that proposal is perfect. It addresses a win-win to have, hopefully in a minute here, a 5-0 vote. And my God, it is a role model for our kids that no matter our differences, again, our strengths can get us through this. So, as Tigers, we thank you.
Okay, up next, we have Ms. Diane Baker, and on deck, Ms. Janet Drummond.
Hello, I just wanted to thank all of you guys for all the work you do, and I know it's a lot. I can't even imagine. I'm changing subjects. I want to say that I agree with Shalini and Tom and Christy and some of those others, so pretty much I don't want to reiterate all what they said. The other thing I want to say is don't give up on the progress made in School District 51. The recall effort underway in School District 51 is an attempt by the far left to regain control. For too long, the far left and unions have dominated our school board elections and wielded disproportionate influence. However, balance was partially restored in the last election when some sensible parents stepped up and voted for change. These parents were tired of the fear-mongering tactics employed by unions, particularly regarding COVID-19 and school closures. Unfortunately, seeking to regain this hold on the district, those on the far left are now taking advantage of difficult decisions that had to be made during the pandemic. This is a classic David versus Goliath battle, pitting concerned parents against a powerful special interest. As someone who cares deeply about the well-being of students, teachers, and academic achievement, I stand firmly behind our current school board and oppose the recall effort. And this was written by Judy Miller. Thank you so much.
Up next, we have Ms. Janet Drummond, and on deck, we have Josh Hardy.
I want to thank the board for the discussion that went on tonight. It was very interesting. I'm here to talk about the Marillac Clinic too, and I agree with a lot of the things that have been said. I realize that we do need health care in this city, in our schools. It is very important, but it needs to be a health center. It does not need to be a school-based health center. The reason I'm against that is because it is inside the school. We can have a health center that is a block away, whatever. You know, you talk about the distance that the kids are going to have to go. If you go on North Avenue about 10:30 in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, you will see students going all along North Avenue, going to all the different restaurants. They have absolutely no trouble leaving that campus to go get whatever they want for their lunches. So I don't think that that's a problem for those kids. So that to me is a stupid excuse to not have that health center within the school. It's just silly. I also don't believe that the principal needs to be responsible for having that clinic within the school. That's not his job. He is involved with the school, not with medical. I'm also concerned about the security issue. There again, you've got people going in and out of the school. And that's something that we've had to really look at throughout the nation, all the different things that are happening within our schools. We don't need to have people moving in and out of those schools. Also, the same thing, the CFO of the construction company with the board on the Marillac. There's so many concerns there, you know. Get the health care for the community that we need. And I also like the idea that it's not just for the one student, it is for the family. So make it available to the family. You could have that clinic a block away, and it's available to everybody, but it's not involved with the school itself. So I really hope that you consider not having it within the schools. Thank you.
All right, up next we have Mr. Josh Hardy, and on deck, Mr. Bruce Lowmiller.
Hello, my name is Josh Hardy, and my wife and I are the owners of Monument Physical Therapy here in downtown Grand Junction. I'm speaking in favor of a school-based healthcare center at Grand Junction High School. Some of the points I'm going to bring up may seem trivial based on how important a lot of what you guys have been talking about is, but they are important to me as a small business owner and other small business owners like myself. We're a growing business. Currently have 10 employees, and a number of our employees have multiple children. It's not uncommon for kids to get sick, and when a kid gets sick, the parent has to take a day off. Overall, having healthier kids means having a healthier community and decreases likelihood that I'll be short-staffed at the last minute. The biggest single threat to the success of my small business is the last-minute cancellations from patients. If a patient cancels their appointment with little to no notice, I can't fill that spot with another patient. So for that 30 to 60-minute block, I've paid my landlord, I've paid my employees, but do not have any money coming into my small business. A lot of our patients have kids. If they cancel because their kids need to go to urgent care or to their primary care physician, ultimately it hits our bottom line. The impact on my business is easy for me to see, but I can imagine the impact of missed days at work and missed appointments is much more far-reaching in our community. My wife and I want to have kids and a family someday. Many of our friends have kids already. No one I've spoken to is against this school-based health center. I see 16 to 18 patients per day, and our conversations cover all sorts of topics. Every single patient I have spoken to regarding this issue is in support of another school-based health center in our community. A community that is overall more healthy allows me to continue to serve this valley the best way I know how. Thank you for your time.
All righty, up next we have Bruce Lowmiller, and on deck looks like Jana Little.
Good evening. I am amazed at the way you did that listing. Apparently, I walked in here first and signed in, and I was the 30th or 40th individual. I hope you understand that you. I wish that you would resolve what issues you are having with your health care. If this is a problem, please get at the specifics of the problem, find out what they are, find out if you can get them actually adjusted to the point where people can get some. Either if they can't get access at their high schools, they can get access at another location that is aligned with their high school, so it makes them feel as if they are associated with the grouping they should be associated with. Okay, now I've got other things to talk about. This is your sex education class. You have an attorney here, and I have Mr. Shaver from the city attorney's office. They're both looking at a state law about cruelty. Now, what they are to do is to look at the state law and see if the inputs I gave them into the comprehensive sex education class matches the state law. And if it does, I will have Representative Taggart go ahead and introduce it into the actual House resolution, so maybe the additions to the actual House resolution, comprehensive sex education class. It's a House resolution for you. Okay, another thing is we've been having some fun with the press again. I just talked to KREX back there, and I asked them nicely to cover. There's a reasoning for covering this. It's because you're getting involved in things that are not lawful, and if you do that, you're taking a chance on getting yourselves hurt or other people hurt for no good reason. Okay, I sent an inquiry into the FCC about personal attack and asked them nicely to take a look at what was going on here in the area and see if they can get that resolved if they are actually being lawful. Okay, now we have such a thing as a lost report a day reporting. I have never heard of such a thing on earth. Lost report a day reporting, and there's a VA Medical Center record. The young lady's name is Jill Enrich, and that was Dr. Taft Moore. She should get anger management classes. This young lady thought it was appropriate to go out and tell people to die. And apparently Dr. Morris thought that was inappropriate and that they should get anger management classes. Gosh, I hope I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. All righty, up next we have, is it Joanna?
It's Joanna.
Okay, Miss Joanna Little, and on deck we have Miss Anna Elliott.
Good evening to all of you. Thank you for hearing us out here. I just want to start by saying this all makes me really sad to hear that there's a us and a them. All we want to do is provide access for health care to the students in our valley. And that's the mission of Marillac. Actually, our mission is to provide affordable access to health care in the county. You know, we've been in discussions with a lot of you on and off for maybe a year. And a lot of things have been said and thrown around. And I feel that there has been a lot of misunderstanding in what's been said. He said, she said, they said, and we have provided a proposal to you all that says that we'll pay for the tenant build out, we'll pay the rent, we'll pay to furnish it, we'll pay to staff it. And to me, I think that's a very fair thing for the taxpayer. They're not paying any of that. But I really think it's time to move past all of this past conversation and get back to thinking about the kids. And, you know, when you voted against this in March, I felt like maybe your younger constituents were totally ignored. They came up here by the droves to tell you they wanted one. And that was real disheartening to me. And now I hope that, I'm glad that you're back on track and listening to them. I will say FCI, we have had 2 board members on our board. We all sign a conflict of interest form. If there's something that we're voting on that I have an interest in, I have to recuse myself. I don't vote on that. And that's how our FCI board members are. We all do that. Again, I'm just so sad that this has become so polarizing. And I am sad that Marillac has been vilified. I think we do a fine job given our success at Central, and that's an easy model to replicate. Thank you.
Alrighty, up next we have Miss Anna Elliott, and on deck, Carol Rathbun.
Just a little history. This has been going on for some time, since 2017, 2018, when Central came into the picture, and then Grand Junction High School was being talked about. So 18, 19. 2019, an election came up with ballot language that was very vague on the amount of money that would be spent to build Grand Junction High School and to embellish the 3 other high schools. It was defeated. I voted against that particular ballot item because it was so vague and wasn't specific. So in 2021, there was another election. There was a ballot election for bond money for the Grand Junction High School, and there was also an election for 3 new board members for School District 51. That bond measure for 2021 was written, and the very first bond point was for the sole purpose of replacing Grand Junction High School, constructed in '56 with a new high school on the same site and renovating the existing gym and art building on the high school campus or the site. It was very important within this bond language to be specific. As Dr. Schulte said, words have meaning. The words here, the project, the site, it grossly omitted any mention of a health-based clinic on the campus. And because of the audience here and the contentious discussion that's gone on, we could see why the health-based clinic was left out of the ballot language in 2021 and received overwhelming support. It was so important that 2021 bond passed that over, I believe, $800,000 had already been spent in the design of the high school with geowork and design building for it. If 21 had failed, we would have been screwed. It was important that this bond pass. It was important that no mention of the clinic was in it because you knew the public would not approve it. There was not even an argument against it. Tabor has been mentioned. It's part of our Colorado state law. It says Colorado law and precedent first requires that any bill, ballot initiative, or referred message comply with single subject requirement so that voters can make an informed choice. The very first bullet point in this ballot language said the sole purpose to replace the high school, the gym, the art building. No mention of the clinic. Again, I say the public was deceived, the voters were deceived, the whole county by not including description of a clinic going in. If it was so important as it is tonight with everyone showing up, it should have been taking place before the ballot was ever brought on to the voters. And as a red flag warning, everyone who goes and admits that they're thinking of suicide, hurt themselves, red flag.
Thank you, Ms. Elliott. Up next, we have Ms. Carol, is it Rathbun?
Rathbun, yes.
And on deck, we have Lorena Thompson.
First of all, I see nowhere that the voters voted on this. Therefore, this is an act of robbery of the taxpayers, as well as future tax burden on the children of today. Secondly, why would you approve of a 12-year-old receiving puberty blockers, hormones, and body mutilation without the consent of their parents? The ramifications of mutilation and hormones will have lifelong health consequences, such as cancer, infections, and sterility, not to mention that many young and old people who have mutilated their bodies now strongly regret it. Many have chosen to try to detransition. The damage has already happened. Many have shared, I will not be able to breastfeed or have children. At 12 years old, the children, they don't have.
Please refrain from doing that,
They
please.
don't have life experience. And many of these people are regretting it. Many. And they have many health consequences from it. I'm not saying that, as you said, that the clinic is doing this, but at what point, if the state is funding it, will it be forced and that it will happen anyways? It's on behalf of the children. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Up next, we have,
I'm going to call to order. We specifically said the rules ahead of time. When someone's up here speaking, you need to provide the same courtesy as they did to you by holding comments while they're talking. And we said no booing. So if you would like to be escorted out, you can continue doing that. Please be respectful of the people up here taking time to speak.
up next, we have Ms. Lorena Thompson, and on deck, we have Doug Bryant.
Hi. I prepared comments ahead of time. I don't have a bunch of statistics to give you tonight. I have only words. But I think words are really powerful. And I think that if you listen to them, they can change lives. My name is Lorena Thompson. I taught at Grand Junction High School for 28 years, quite infamously at times. One of the most important things that I've done with my life was to help create and then to administer the RISE program for the last 8 years of my tenure at Junction. This program was important because it offered kids who otherwise would have little opportunity for college the opportunity to work toward that. It took away barriers that they otherwise couldn't get past. These kids lived in homes that did not lack love, but often did not have the luxury of being able to afford insurance and medical care. I more than once personally took them to the Marillac Clinic for strep cultures or whatever because their parents couldn't miss work. It would mean less money for their families. We once had a young man diagnosed with diabetes who missed many days of school because he was taken to the emergency room. They hadn't taken him to a doctor because they had no doctor, they had no money, and they had no insurance. It was cost prohibitive to whine about frequent urination and unusual thirst, and they didn't understand what was happening with him. They didn't understand how important that was. By the time they took him to the ER, he was in critical condition. These are the kids who will most benefit from a medical clinic that's attached directly to the school, where they can just walk in and say, I'm thirsty all the time, is something wrong? As a rather infamous AP teacher and academic competition coach, I could have stayed in my lane, but I found that helping kids who are not blessed with all of the benefits that most of the students I typically dealt with were blessed with, that was life-changing for me, and it was life-changing for them. And sometimes it's hard to see past our own fears to what others might need because we don't personally need those things. That's not a reason to allow those without a voice to be ignored. Thank you.
Okay, up next we have Doug Bryant, and on deck, Michael Permenko? Oh, Permenko.
Yeah, my name is Doug Bryant. I've got 2 great-grandchildren in District 51 schools. No kids, no grandkids. They've all graduated. But I still feel that I should, put my 2 cents in. The problems not being addressed is that there's been a loss of trust of many of us of the whole healthcare system. Information that I base my decisions on is no longer coming from any of the normal media sources because they all tell the same story. Some of us feel that there's a hidden agenda in this whole thing. We don't have any problem with a health clinic off campus, but some seem to think it needs to be on campus. Why is that? Some of us see that as an attempt to get the parents out of the decision-making process. The same people pushing this agenda were for the lockdowns, the masking, and the mandatory COVID vaccines. Lockdowns and masking set our students back 2 years for absolutely no purpose. COVID was not a threat to young people. There has been an epidemic of young people, young healthy people, dying in their sleep, dying on the athletic field. This isn't talked about too much, but the statistics has been reported in a book called Cause Unknown by Edward Dowd. The statistics have been backed up by insurance data. It's not something I'm dreaming up. He just puts out the facts. He doesn't say it's caused by the COVID vaccines, but it's kind of coincidental that it all started in about April of 2021. A lot of us think that the large drug companies have too much influence over agencies like the CDC. For all of these reasons, I don't think that there's any reason why District 51 should be getting in the healthcare business. I think it needs to be off campus. At some point, if I'm right, all these children, the truth will come out. I mean, Pfizer and Moderna can't suppress this forever. And one other thing about changing any of this, be very aware that construction companies can make all kinds of monies off of change orders, and some of them are very good at it. Thank you very much for what you've done.
Before we go to Mr. Permenko, we are at an hour when we have 10 left.
All right, board, we're at an hour and there's 10 people left. So are we good to let the rest of the 10 speak? We would just ask that, again, if it's duplicitous comment, please just state that you agree with something that's been said before, and then please add your specific comments to it. Thank you.
Okay, so up next we have Michael Permenko, and on deck it looks like Mike Stahl.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to come before the board again, and appreciate the opportunity to spend another Tuesday evening with you all. My name is Michael Permenko. I'm a family physician here in Grand Junction. I've been here for 25 years. And also serve as Chief Medical Officer for Monument Health and Chief Medical Officer for Primary Care Partners, which is the largest primary care office on the Western Slope. I speak on behalf of the boards for Monument Health as well as Primary Care Partners. They support school-based health clinics. They would also support the language that you've drawn up here tonight as far as a health clinic that's integrated, that provides primary care services, behavioral health care services, and dental services. I'm not going to repeat data that you've all heard this evening. I'm not going to repeat data that you spent hours on a couple weeks ago about the need. The question remains is, we know the data. What are we going to do about it? Are we going to let politics get in the way of taking care of our children? We are all in the business of health care. It's 20% of the gross domestic product of the United States of America. We spend more money on health care in the United States by far than anywhere else in the world. And we do that because we focus on sick care more than health care. Because we, in the United States, we wait until things get really bad, and then we give full access to the emergency room. We do that as a country. We do that as employers. We've done that as a District 51. And most organizations and businesses have made the same mistake. Getting to medical issues before they get bigger is essential for driving costs down and creating better health care for our kids, our students, ourselves, and to making this a sustainable health care system for the future. That can't be done with politics. It's done by reaching out and creating health care access and equity where it is needed, where the data shows it's needed. So I implore you to make decisions based on what the data is showing. I implore you to be in the business of health care and to consider what we need to do so the next generation of adults doesn't have the same health care issues that we are dealing with now. Finally, I will say there's only so many ways to pull this off. As a prior executive director for my practice and in CMO, I will tell you, we can't go into that school and be the school-based health clinic. It requires an entity like Marillac that gets the grant funding, that knows how to do primary care to do that. There's only very few options that can pull this off. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for reconsidering this issue.
Alrighty, up next we have Mike Stahl, and on deck, Ms. Wendy Wood.
Great.
Thank you all very much. My name's Mike Stahl. I'm the CEO for Hilltop Community Resources, as well as a board member at Marillac. I'm also the chair for the Mesa County Healthcare Leadership Consortium that has taken a position on this school-based health center. I think a couple different things that I want to bring up and not repeat other things. One, it's nice to hear pretty much universally in the room the need for some kind of health care clinic for our kids in the schools. I would implore you to look at the model that is working perfectly right now in the school district at Central High School. Sitting through 5 hours of testimony, hearing about the school-based health clinics, I have not heard one person speak ill of Central High School school-based health clinic. The kids speak so strongly of it, and so do the faculty, that we have a model that is working that I'm not sure why we would ever change. Another point is there's been some comments being made that schools should stay in their lane. I think that's why you hire a third party to administrate your school-based health center, so you can stay in your lane. Let the healthcare professionals run the healthcare side, let the school administrators run the school, and together they can support students with a whole nother tool chest that a lot of schools do not have. Another point I want to bring up, we make it sound like this is mandatory for kids to go to the school-based health. It is optional. Nobody is forcing any kid to go in there to receive services. It is completely optional. Parents don't abdicate their rights to be a parent. They can talk to their kid and tell them, we don't use this school-based health clinic. We're not going to use it. There is no mandatory part of this. It's for the kids who really don't have other options and for parents that want the convenience of a school-based health center. So those are the main points I wanted to point out. I also thought it was pretty interesting when I came in and knowing I was coming to the Harry Butler boardroom. I served on committees with Harry Butler for years, and the number one thing he asked before any final decision we were making about kids is it good for kids? He just would lead with, is it good for kids? I believe this is good for kids, and I hope that you do as well. Thank you all very much.
Alrighty, up next we have Miss Wendy Wood, and on deck, Jerry Wood.
Hi, good evening. My name is Wendy Wood. I'm here more just to speak to parents in the room. I see this as sort of a camel in the tent, a camel's nose in the tent. I have not heard one person here speak against having a healthcare clinic at all. In fact, everyone here, would say, truly does care about our kids, and that touches my heart deeply, because I know that's the thing that unites us. It's divisive to say that it is us versus them. It's not. No one here is suggesting we don't have one, but parents, you are the number one caregivers to your children. They are the number one. They are the ones that will love their kids and train their kids, and that's who God has given them the authority to grant, or has granted that authority to parents to do that. So by having the school district come in and be a middle ground there, or someone who is in the middle of parents and children one more time, or to a deeper degree, it removes parental authority. And yes, there are a lot of things that minors can consent to here without parents knowing about it. From what you showed tonight, your statistics showed that there was 10% that were uninsured. I wrote it down as soon as I saw it. That seems like a very low number, so it does seem that there are plenty that do have access. I am for the idea of having it across the campus or across the street, because then it does give access to whole families, not just 14 to 18-year-olds that happen to go to Junction High School. And we say we care for kids, then do we care for kids that are 0 to 13 that aren't at Junction High? Let me see. I would want to just say ditto to what Christy Anderson said, because I've thought deeply about this for a while, but she brought up points I hadn't even considered. I've been praying about this issue for a long time, and truly I think there's a lot of good points made tonight, but the whole overarching picture is that D51 is to educate, not to medicate, or not to be in the business of behavioral health or dental. that's something that they can advocate for, but it is not their job. I think this is a big reason why enrollment is down in schools, because we haven't stayed in our lane. We're here to educate, and that's what it should be. And I am a teacher. I speak on behalf of my mandate as a teacher is to educate first. So thank you.
Alrighty, up next we have Jerry Wood, and on deck looks like Cole Chambers.
Hi, good evening. I'm going to try and bring some thoughts together here in a coherent way, but I'm not against health care for the kids of any kind. I do have a very grave concern about putting it on campus. I think it creates a liability for the school, but I also believe that the reason it was just so unacceptable to place it across the street is because there is a desire to get between the parents and the kids. And I want you to take that very seriously, because across the street is great. Parents can visit, whole families can visit, people of all ages can visit. Some people, there are some people who don't have access to a school because they are limited. They can't, some people have legal restrictions. They can't go to a school because of crimes committed, because of other things, a suspicion on them. But the main thing that I wanted to bring up right now is it may not be occurring here, but it is occurring across the nation with these clinics in schools where they do get between parents and students and things are abused. We know that students who start questioning their gender, this has been touched on, but the students who start questioning their gender, it has been shown that about 80% of them, by the time they're 20 and their brain is starting to fully develop, they resolve that and they are at peace with their birth gender. However, what's happening across the nation in these clinics is they start counseling these kids and they start telling them that you really are the opposite gender than what you were born with. And they start telling these kids that they need to transition. And by the time they've convinced the kids that they need to transition, then they bring the parents in. And then they tell the parents with a strong arm that you can either have a live child of the other gender or a dead child who's going to commit suicide. And then the parents are forced to go along with it. And then we have a number of lawsuits that are rising across this country from students, children who are now adults who are trying to detransition. They have been mutilated. I want to point out, when they take a young woman and transition her to be a man, they take flesh, meat and skin off of her forearm or off of her thigh. It's permanently disfiguring. And the part that they create does not have the right sensations. It never really functions. And with a boy, they cut things off that can't be replaced. So when people regret this decision that has been pushed on them and they try to go back, they are left being neither.
Mr. Wood.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Cole Chambers, and on deck, Mike Rediker.
Hi there, Board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name's Cole Chambers, and I'm a dad of 4, and I live here in Junction. I work here in Junction, and my kids all go to D51 schools. I have one kiddo in Grand Junction High School. I have a kiddo in Chipeta, and 2 in East. So I come in as strong support as I can vocalize in support of these clinics in the school, inside the school premises. And I just want to, and I won't reiterate too much why, but I just want to throw my support, for what it's worth, behind what the students who have spoken said. I think they are the voices we should be listening to, because it's directly impacting them. So what they've talked about as when it comes to access and the barriers to access, and I think it's very insulting, and I think it's really quite frankly unbelievable that some adults have come up here and demeaned them and demeaned students by saying that they are walking on North and they can walk to school, and not understanding the barriers that it takes to address mental health issues. And yes, absolutely, a street can be a barrier, another building can be a barrier. And for us to sit here and belittle the children who speak up and say that is the case is just, it's quite frankly ridiculous. So I'm very, very disappointed in some of the adults in this room for that. I want to I just want to commend Dr. Schulte for the Pride acknowledgement for June. I really appreciate that as a parent of queer children. Thank you for doing that. I don't think D51 is quite there. I don't think it's a very welcoming place for folks in the queer community. I hope it gets there. And I really, I just want to throw my support behind this effort. I think it's very much needed in our schools. I look forward to it really coming to fruition, and I hope it doesn't get sidetracked. I hope it doesn't get hijacked. I hope it doesn't get. I really hope that it moves forward with the vision that was done at Central. I think we should follow that model, do what works, and move forward. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Alrighty, up next we have Michael Redeker, and on deck, Bailey Warner.
Hi, Mike Redeker. Thank you very much for letting me speak, and thank you, each one of you, for the work that you do. I know a lot of times it becomes an us versus them, but I know you're not evil people. You don't wake up saying, I can't wait to do some evil. I know you're all good people, and you all have everything, looking at the same goal. One of the things that, a lot of my items were, already expressed with the taxpayer issues, things like that. I'm not against a health clinic, for right purposes. Moses and I, we were classmates, and when I went back to, about 50 years ago, we had the nurse's station. She was dressed in white shoes, white tights, and the white hat. They give you aspirin. I don't think you can get aspirin anymore without parents' permission, but there were some objective things that were done. And I think with the resolution, one of the things that you need to consider, especially as leaders, because leaders lead, which means you're out further and you're taking a look at a different horizon. And I think in a lot of these issues, you got to even go further out than that horizon and take a look at what might be the unintended consequences, for good or for ill. Taking a look at what are some of the objective things. So objective things would be like the primary health care. You either got a cavity or you don't. You either got a cut or you don't. You either have a broken arm or you don't. When you start getting into the mental health care and the behavioral issues, now you're moving into a different sort of a category that might be a little bit more objective. And I think that's where a lot of parents are coming from, that are concerned about this. So I just want to have you think about that. One of the great suggestions tonight was having a committee and having equal voices heard, because it feels like what I sense is there's not a lot of all the voices being heard. And I think having that committee like what was put together for the consolidation of schools is a good thing. So I would just commend you all for your leadership. I do thank you. I don't take it for granted. And that's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Alrighty, up next we have Bailey Warner. And on deck we have Raylan Hilgenfold.
Thanks. I'm not as good at reading or speaking off note, so I'm going to read from my phone. But I really want to thank you guys as a board for reconsidering this really important issue for our kids of the student-based health center at Grand Junction High School. It's such a critical need for students in Mesa County to have easy access to medical, dental, and behavioral health care. Accessible health care will not only enable them to be the best students they can be, but also has far-reaching implications for their future health and well-being as they prepare to enter adulthood. Having a clinic within the walls of the school building allows them the safety of accessing healthcare without leaving the school. One of the best design features of our new Grand Junction High School is the safety net that it provides our students by consolidating multiple school buildings into one space with secured entrances and exits. ADA access is also something that we kind of mentioned earlier in other discussions, and I think that that's also not really being considered when we think about moving a clinic away from the walls of the school. And having the clinic within the school, it enables kids to spend more time in their classes while still having their health needs addressed. Previous discussions of the proximity of other Marillac clinics to Grand Junction High School, the main clinic being, less than a mile away from the high school, really leaves out how jam-packed our kids' schedules are, how busy all of our primary care provider offices are in this valley. To get a same-day appointment for a provider is not a thing of reality in most cases, let alone within easy access in between your classes. I really think that the ease of accessibility is key to good primary health care. In the same way that having a trainer courtside can help athletes stay in the game, having easy access to health care can help our students stay in the classroom. I also want to say that I agree with some of the previous speakers, as well as Dr. Schultes. Our language does matter, and attempting to reinvent the wheel of a school-based health center and potentially dilute that opens the door to a whole range of medical care. Using an established, regulated model means that everyone knows the range of care that will be provided or not provided. And I urge you, Dr. Hill, to define the school-based health center as the choice for Grand Junction High School. Thanks.
Alrighty, up next we have Raylyn, is it Hilgenfold?
Close enough.
All right. And then on deck we have Johanna Ledoux.
Cool. Thank you guys so much. I had a whole bunch of written down, and I'm already over time, so.
Thank you.
I first want to start off by saying that all of my notes are hogwash because everybody's already covered most of it, but new thoughts have presented themselves. I am a mother of 4 children. I've been a single mom. I was raised by a single mom. I went to Central High School. I've been a teacher. I have a kid with cancer. I've got a kid with Hashimoto's. I know the difficulties that arise from trying to access healthcare for my children while trying to decide if I take off work today, can I pay my rent next week? And I don't hear a lot about access to healthcare. And I think we have a 2-part issue that I'm going to get to hopefully in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. The first being, we need to provide access to healthcare for children. I tell all of my children this. I give you my permission, and by the state of Colorado, you have permission to access mental health care for yourself. You don't have to tell me that you're going. And my daughter, who's 15, said, how? How do I get there? Who do I call? How do I make an appointment? And my answer was, I don't know. I guess you have to tell me. But having access to a school-based health center where she can go without me knowing, I am okay with my children going and getting the help that they need if they're not comfortable coming to me. I hope we provide a home where they feel comfortable for that, but I wasn't comfortable with that. I would have benefited greatly from having a school-based health center. Secondly, I don't think we should have it open to the public. I was not spoken for as a child. We didn't consider children as being a priority when I was growing up. It's time that we as adults and as a school board and as a district speak for our children and say they need to have access to health care. They need to have access to mental health care. The second part of this, which is kind of on a different note, I feel like we need to have 2 votes, one tonight to decide if we're gonna have a school-based health care center or whatever we're deciding to call it, and also how we are going to delegate that service. I don't feel like it is appropriate for us to delegate that service without having it bid out to different medical offices. I disagree that Marillac is the only entity that can handle this. I do believe that they've done a good job at Warrior Wellness, However, I feel like there are multiple organizations in this valley, Family Health West, Community Hospital, St. Mary's Hospital, who all have primary care, who have mastered primary care, who should be allowed to bid. Maybe they did already, I don't know. So those are my 2 cents. I do believe that a school-based health center, having children in high schools and middle school and elementary school and preschool, I do feel like this is a huge, huge benefit to my children as well as others. Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, up next we have, is it Johanna?
Johanna.
Johanna Ledoux?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And then on deck we have Phyllis Flower.
Everyone knows me. Okay. All right. Hello, my name is Johanna Ledoux. I'm a graduate from Grand Junction High School. Now, I know this won't affect me, but this clinic will help my friends that are still going to Grand Junction High School and their friends. Also, kids on their way through elementary and middle school who are also going to Grand Junction High School. You had an amazing lady in front of you crying a couple weeks ago about this, what lines up perfectly with this clinic, but you're still denying it? Now, please take a step back and get in a kid's shoes who has a hard family life, who is too afraid to go to their family but needs medical or mental health care. Now, as that kid, your higher-ups are taking that safe place and healthy place away. You say that you want to help your kids and your community, but here you are taking away a way to help your kids and to make them feel safe. Every year you have kids committing suicide because they aren't getting some of the medical care and mental health care they need. But now you have a chance to help these kids who, should be what this is about. But you are saying no to helping another kid. On Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration studies, it shows that teens who might resist going to a doctor are more willing to get help problems like depression, anxiety, and weight issues at a school-based or getting help at a school-based health center. All of these are in this clinic and will help support all the kids at Grand Junction High School. I understand that students can walk across the street and get lunch, but this isn't the same as doing something with friends. This is doing something for your students. It can be hard to leave a classroom and even going outside to the clinic. Now you're going to see that that student is getting help. And students will say, that student is getting help. You might think that this isn't going to happen, but I am a student still, and I know that it is going to happen. So please keep this inside the school. Now let's talk about the new high school. It is already being built in the new high school, supposedly. Now a student will walk by and think, oh, this is where I could have been helped, but now I'm going to get worse and worse every day. On CPR, they say that this clinic will offer students wellness checks, sports exams, strep tests, care for clinic conditions like diabetes and mental health, and some offer dental scannings or screenings. They often serve underserved children and youth who has limited access to health care. Now, some of you may have money and insurance, or have many of these listed, and a ginormous amount of kids everywhere do not have money or insurance. In physical and national health programs say that 20 million children in the U.S. lack significant access to health care. All we need is this clinic there, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. So think about the kids. Think about what you can do now before you regret what you do, and now, because this is happening. This disappointment of the health and mental care loss will be on you. So please flash the clinic.
Thank you. Alrighty, up next we have Ms. Phyllis Flower, and our final will be Steve Motes.
This is going to be short because several others have already addressed the things that I was going to say, but I'll just reiterate that I'm not opposed to a healthcare clinic, but not within the school, not a school-based clinic. The issues that I have are, it was not clear on the ballot at all that this was any part of the new high school to be built. It's very suspicious, and I just wonder about hidden agendas and other motives, because there was the rush to get this passed in March so that they could know what to do with that space, and nothing ever happened with the space. And we found out about the CFO of FCI being on the Marillac board, and whether that person gets to vote or not doesn't matter. There's still the influence. I just wonder what is really behind all this. And I would like to see a clinic that's available for families and across the street from the high school. Sounds like a good idea to me. Thank you.
Alrighty, and our last one is Stephen Moats.
So we're spending trillions right now on Obama welfare care that was supposed to fix all of this stuff. Access, 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 that's what all these people were saying. That was supposed to fix it. One of you young ladies said something about Denver having programs, spending tons of money on programs. Apparently that's failing as well. And now you're gonna take your hand at being doctors for our children. Right? It won't work, it won't help one iota on the education of our children. Right? You are not a hospital, you are not doctors, you are not psychotherapists, none of that stuff that's been brought up in this stuff. You are educators. Now, the School District 51 may have a little bit higher graduation rates and better scores than some of the third world crud holes over in Denver and LA and New York, but it's not stellar. Your job is to turn out stellar students, not athletes or health, or focus on what your job is education, and educate our children. It's not stellar. You're gonna spend all this money and just throw it down the tubes just like all the other welfare programs. These people can get access. They all have access. No matter where you go in this town, there's clinics everywhere. Everywhere. Has anybody else seen that? Everywhere, clinics. They have access. Now you're gonna get it, you're gonna try to get it into the school. What's gonna happen is that once you get entrenched into the schools with these clinics, you are going to, like these three people that were here, I'm sure they're wonderful people. They told us, oh, we're not gonna do the transgender thing. They're not gonna mutilate our teenagers because they're confused. I guarantee you the first time someone complains about it, those three people are gone, and they're gonna put someone in here who will mutilate our children, who will talk them into aborting babies. It's not your place, you're educators, not healthcare professionals. Please educate our children. By the way, why did the chicken cross the road? To get medical attention, okay? It's everywhere, it's everywhere.
All right, thank you everyone for your public comments this evening. We will go ahead and move on to, our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains personnel actions and acceptance of gifts items that are routine and can be approved by a single motion. Items on the consent agenda will not be discussed individually by the board unless an item is removed for individual consideration. I will state that the total of our gifts is $19,767. Is anyone requesting any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we can take the vote.
Mrs. Heiss?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Dr. Schultes?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we did have some admin ones on there, so I'll just mention
Sure.
those admin hires. I didn't bug them on their summer break to ask them what they're most excited about, but we do want to recognize our leaders who are going to be taking on the principalship position. So for Mount Garfield Middle School, Danielle Bagwell, who has been serving in education for, I believe, 19 years. She's worked at Palisade High School as a teacher and also as a counselor, and then most recently has been the assistant principal at Mount Garfield Middle School. And so we're excited for Ms. Bagwell to be taking over as the principal at Mount Garfield Middle School. So we can give her a round of applause. We also have Dr. Huddle. She is, most recently has been serving as the assistant principal at Mount Garfield Middle School, but also before that has worked as a special education coordinator, as a teacher, and also a director of program evaluation. And she will be taking over and serving as the next principal for Rimrock Elementary School. So we're excited for Dr. Huddle. Can we give Dr. Huddle a big round of applause for her new role? And then we also have Miss Williams will be taking over as the principal at Thunder Mountain Elementary School. She has been in education as well for well over 15 years, serving as a teacher, and all of her time serving the D51 community, but as a teacher, assistant principal, and most recently she was assistant principal at Clifton Elementary. And so we're excited for Miss Williams to be taking over as the Thunder Mountain Elementary School principal. I'll give her a round of applause. And I should have mentioned, she was previously an assistant principal there, so it's kind of coming home for her. And then last but not least, Cam, we love Cam at Career Center. He has to take leave for his own reasons, and so we are really thankful to Principal McClaskey, who just retired and was going to sail off into the sunset, and then we brought him right back in. He was most recently the amazing principal at Fruita Monument High School, and so he's going to be serving as an interim, and that's mainly due to the timing of things, to put a committee together and everything to try to find somebody for Career Center would be a lot. So we're going to have Todd McClaskey, Principal McClaskey, to take over as the interim at Career Center as well. So we can give Todd a big round of applause for coming back to us. Thank you.
That was short-lived. I don't know if we're going to get anybody retired because they are just going to somehow wrap them back up. So we appreciate the help, especially with the last-minute change. So, all right. All right, we have a few business items. I think before I move into that, our attorney is still working on item J5. So do I have a motion to table that for our next meeting?
So moved.
Second. And we can vote to table that.
I'm sorry.
We're going to table that?
We're going to table
Didn't hear
J5.
who motioned to who seconded.
I motioned.
Will motioned, Carrie seconded.
So the vote?
Yes, sorry, there's no discussion on the tabling of an item, so we can go right to vote.
So motion to table policy second readings, J5.
Yep,
Mrs.
A, B, and C, yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Dr. Schultes?
Yes. Thank you, Board, for that. All right, so now we're going to move into our budget items. So do I have a motion to approve J1 for the budget, which would be the 2023-2024 budget adoption, the use of beginning fund balance, and the borrow of unencumbered money?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to note that we have had, I don't know when all of the budget meetings are, but we could say them, but I did find, I just Googled and I found that the budget is presented in full online, and it was posted on May 25th. So I'm sorry about not having access to this room or these specific materials before the meeting, but that has been posted online for a month, if not more.
Yeah. Yes, and we had a previous budget hearing 2 weeks ago, and we had the second one tonight. So yes. All right. Any other discussion? All right, we can call for the vote.
Okay, Mrs. Heights?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Dr. Schultes?
Yes. All right, moving on, for J2, we need to move to have a resolution to delegate an election official because we do have an election this fall for school board. Do I have a motion for that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? And that is Amy, correct? Okay, just so that'll,
Mrs. Heights?
yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Dr. Schultes?
Yes. All right, and then moving on, I know our budget committee, or Melanie, excuse me, our CFO has been working to approve a fiscal oversight committee, so we have some new people that they have recommended for that. Do I have a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, we can take the vote.
Okay, Mrs. Heights?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Dr. Schultes?
Yes.
All right, J4, the resolution to direct the district to establish a health center at the Grand Junction High School campus. Do I have,
Okay, is this a motion with the change to the language? as
yeah, could we,
earlier?
do you have that one we can put, are we able to
Can you put that up?
put it up or no? If not, it's,
Even if you just say, if you can put it up and we can see what it says. You wrote it down, or?
I do have it, I can't get it up on the screen, but I do have it. So the 7th paragraph of the resolution would read, therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby wishes to proceed with establishing an integrated health center that provides primary care medical services, behavioral health, and dental services on the Grand Junction High School campus.
okay, so we'll make the motion with the revised language. Do you have a motion for that resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and discussion? Okay, well, I put together some thoughts, I just didn't feel like sharing them earlier. So I appreciate everybody sharing their thoughts this evening. I do think there's been some misunderstandings around the vote that the board gave, a few months ago around no. We voted no for that particular resolution. I think Dr. Hill has spent enough time with the 5 of us that, and the consensus in this room is that everybody understands and knows that these services are needed. A lot of times we vote no on ballot measures because we don't always agree with the language. So I think that pigeonholing those of us who voted no to say that we don't value those things was very much misconstrued, because some of us worked very hard on trying to find alternatives. So I just want to, I thank you for those who acknowledge that. So I too, just like speaking at the public, I have to read my thoughts as well. I spent a great deal of time reflecting on the discussion by the board regarding the health center. It is clear that all individuals agree students can benefit from behavioral health and medical services. However, what has been clear is that this issue tends to raise various other issues. In order to come to my decision today, I thought about the role of the Board of Education. The Board of Education has always encouraged input and has actively listened to the various stakeholders, including students, parents, employees, and the community. With regard to the matter, we have heard from all of these stakeholders. We heard many individuals during public comment, and we all have received many emails. With that being said, members on the board and our stakeholders do not necessarily agree as to how these services could be offered. There has been discussion and disagreement regarding the location of the center, the services offered, parental involvement, etc. They've been raised in our discussions and during public comment. It is clear, given diverse opinions, our decisions may result in some individuals being unhappy. As I discussed when we were talking about our teacher negotiations as of late, the Board of Education assigns the what and the why, and the district should be charged with the how. We are not the negotiators, but we are the directors taking into account all opinions. Once the Board of Education has made a decision, it is Dr. Hill's responsibility to implement and execute the decision. Dr. Hill works closely with the board to provide expert advice, insights, and recommendations based on his knowledge of the educational system that aligns with the Board of Education's directive. We have trust in him to carry out our directives efficiently and effectively. In our hope of finding, or I would say in my hope of finding, a mutually satisfactory solution, we are now assigning the task of establishing a wellness center to Dr. Hill. Dr. Hill, along with others, will ascertain the most effective approach for students' wellness at Grand Junction High School, considering the unique context of D51 and the opinions of all. The results may align with the hopes of some of us, or it may not. However, we have charged Dr. Hill with the responsibility of ensuring that he conscientiously considers the concerns raised. Any other discussion? All right, and with that, we will take a vote on this resolution.
Mrs. Heights?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Lima?
Yes.
Mr. Levinson?
Yes.
Dr. Schultes?
Yes.
All right. We will now move on to open board discussion.
So for me, I just want to take a second just to really recognize Miss Bridget, who's since day one made me feel pretty comfortable. Since I was a little snot-nosed kid coming in her office with looking for our little petition signs and things like that, and she was always the one to help me out. And I always have a problem, Miss Bridget, Miss Bridget, Miss Bridget. She's always been there to help us out. And so for the past 2 years, it's been amazing. So we're definitely going to miss you. I know I am, and the things that you do for us, and really, really hope that you enjoy your endeavors of retirement. And if you ever get bored and want to come back, I'm sure we can find something for you to do. But I just want to thank you for all your service and thank you for everything you did for me personally. So.
All right, any other open board discussion?
Can I ask I don't think we ever got to follow up on, so we were awarded, my loose understanding of the situation is we were awarded from the state a person to help with housing, some time to provide housing support for staff. And I was under the understanding that we needed to sign that and get it back. What's going on?
So, great. So Tammy's working on it. There was a memorandum of understanding that came with that. So for those of you that don't recall, we had previous board president Tom Parrish, along with George Rao, some community members that wanted to look at working on affordable housing. The committee kind of disbanded, but in the midst of that, they had submitted, I think to the state, again, it's more of like a planning help to kind of assess and won't cost the district any money, and so that was awarded to this area. They are willing to pick that back up and work through that, and I think garner some good information for our area. Because it had an MOU with it, we did want our attorney to take a look at it, so as soon as she's good with all of that, then I think we can go ahead and sign off on it. And
Okay.
yeah. It sounds like we're getting that cleared up. Okay.
Okay, and then just to be very clear, so if you have to sign it, this isn't a decision that we've made, we're not committing anything as a district, there's no money being spent on it. So if you, as the president of the board, have to sign it, that
the district's interested, yes.
Yes, is not out of standard.
Right. It can't, the committee can't work outside what the district wants, so they need the district signature on it. So that's another thing I wanted Tammy to check on as well before signing anything.
But it doesn't require a vote.
No.
And so we're good.
Yeah, if they end up coming back with information that could lead to something, then yes, we would provide a presentation and move forward if there was something that the board had to make like a fiscal or some kind of procedural decision on. Correct.
Just want to make sure it gets signed as long as it's in our interest and it works out.
Yeah, there's some language in there that does commit us to do certain things, but it's missing attachments.
Okay, great. Thanks for being on it.
Any other open board discussion? All right. Actually, I will add one more thing. Looking at the month of June, it is Mental Health Awareness Month for men particularly. I know, so, well, you've been here 8 years, Doug. I'm just saying, you're a glutton for punishment, so. No, actually, it was funny, my daughter is actually the one that brought it up before I left the house, that she's very passionate about mental health, and so, and obviously we talked a lot about it this evening, so I think we need to recognize that everyone in our community, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, sons, daughters, everybody has been having a rough go of it. So let's support each other, let's be kind to each other, and even when we don't agree, let's still give a smile and we don't know what someone else has walked in their shoes, and give each other a little bit of grace. So Just want to acknowledge that.
There's one other thing I forgot that, so there's a superintendent evaluation that I think we intended to be done by the contract.
I think y'all should do that after I decide what I'm doing with the school.
No,
based-
listen.
Okay.
Listen up here, this is important.
So we're committed to evaluating our superintendent. I sent out the latest version of the evaluation to everybody. It's the first time that we've done this. Angela and I have worked closely together on it. You've all seen most of the content. If there's a question on there that you don't like, no problem, just flag it. And then we need to have an executive session. So we need to find a time for an executive session to go over that together. So
Calendars out, because we're going to, okay.
are we doing it right now? Okay.
Yes, before we adjourn.
Okay, I did have one question on that.
Yes.
Are we going to require 2 executive sessions, one for the board to decide on a final evaluation, and then a second to present to Dr. Hill?
I don't think so.
You want to do it all at once?
I think we can do it all at once. I think we can adjust anything prior to, just in 2-2-1 or one-on-one conversations within the board. Because really, we've just taken the language straight out of the evaluation goals and put it right onto the evaluation form. So we did make some adjustments on that, and you'll see that that will read absolutely the same, whether it's on the form or the goals that we set out. So that work has all been done. I think you just go down, and it's going to be really simple to do that. If you guys have questions about it as you're going through it, then just reach out to one of us, and we can clean that up, or we can make any adjustment. I think we can work through that really quickly and just do one executive session.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what Bridget's asking too, I hear what you're saying. You want to be able to have time as a board to discuss it without me there, so you can talk about me behind my back, and then you want to have an opportunity for me to come in and hear the feedback. So I think the question is, do you want 2 separate meetings, or do you want one meeting and I don't attend the first part of it, and then it's up to y'all on that, but I think you're going to need that.
Do we want
one
2
meeting.
separate meetings? Or
No,
we
I
can
think
do one? Yeah, that's
we
what
could-
Karen.
We could meet for, yes.
Yep, you can just come in after we're done talking
come
behind your
late.
back.
And it's to not talk about you behind your back. It's to have to develop a unified.
Oh!
We speak only as a board. Okay, so we want to do it this month.
But we might.
Do we want to do it next week?
I think we have to give everybody a few days, but we could do it next week.
I am
Oh, you're out
out.
until Thursday.
Yeah, I'm gone this Thursday to next Thursday.
Okay, what about next Friday?
I could do Friday.
Could you do Friday, the 30th? Everybody? Friday, the 30th it is.
Okay, we can figure out a
Doesn't
time.
need to be any specific time.
It doesn't, it's all executive session,
So-
yeah. We can figure out the time later. I'm open.
Okay. I'm up.
We'll send out a,
I have one thing that morning, first thing, and then, but the rest of the day should be pretty open.
I don't have anything.
So do we need a specific location? Since we're just going to go into executive session?
it's just going to be the 5 of us, and then Dr. Hill will join us
we
for
have
the
to-
end of it.
We'll have to post it publicly, and then obviously
Yeah.
go into business session first, and then go into executive sessions. Whatever's easy for staff, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, because you guys aren't working on Fridays. No, I'm joking. All right, we'll figure out the time on Friday. All right, future business meetings. I guess I should qualify that so people don't think that you guys aren't working. So the district, if y'all haven't gotten the email, is we're conserving energy by not having buildings open during the summer when it's super hot. So they're likely still working on Fridays like they always, they work so hard. But we just don't have the buildings open to help save some money during the summer months. So I don't want anybody to take that out of context that nobody's not working, so. All right, if we have future meetings, July 24th, we do have a special board meeting for the board to approve any last hires. Normally, we don't meet during July, and then we will resume the new school year with our first board meeting August 1st, and then a business meeting August 15th, so. Anybody have any future agenda items that they can think of? All right, well, they can always send those to Director Jones or myself for future. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, thank you, everybody, and have a good evening. I think I would